It dawned on him that it happened suddenly. Cartarosa, the hero, woke up. Despite living in this kingdom of Cartarosa, he retained memories of his past life. He remembered his past life as an office worker in Japan. A terribly overcrowded train, tedious work, and unfair treatment by others. Freed from his past life, he was reincarnated as a prince of a country in another world. At first, he was briefly happy to have become a prince. This country is below the poverty line. The hero fought his mentor. Avoid mentors when they get angry. Then he pointed the sword directly at his throat. He finally defeated his mentor. He sheathed his sword. In just 2 years, he defeated his Clerford, the sword instructor and head of the Clerfery clan. Hero thanked him. But even if he had the strength of his youth, he still would not have won. He said his defeat was inevitable anyway. At this rate, no enemy will fear him. The hero then asked who would want to attack this country anyway. Even if they are conquered, there will be nothing to take, and other countries will ignore them because they are a burden and a desperate nation. He was born in Cartarosa, a tiny kingdom of only 1,000 people. As the country's third prince, his older brothers are powerful but dangerous, and the throne could still pass to him. People are usually pleased by this, but because it is happening in this country, he is not happy at all. The soil here is infertile, so they cannot grow crops or exploit resources, and the country is both small and very poor, a place with no hope. He decided to leave. His, of course, always says this, but for the prince to do this intentionally. Hero said the soil is infertile and few crops can be grown there. He seeks to expand the area of sown fields as quickly as possible. Surprised by Hero's visit today, the residents decided to share their achievements with him. Working the land since morning, they managed everything easily at first, but a stubborn tree later made the work difficult. The hero asked what kind of tree it was. They led him to a huge tree. 10 men couldn't handle him, but he could be brought down with an axe. The tree has likely stood here for several hundred years, and Hero still cannot bring himself to cut it down. To give them a harvest, it will need to be cut down. Magical abilities in this world appear only in members of certain families. Having them lets you improve your physical abilities. He drew his sword and swung it at the tree. You struck the tree trunk directly. It split instantly into 2 equal halves. The residents decided to clear the obstacle and finish cultivating the land here for the day. They offered Hero steamed potatoes, and some of the workers did not refuse food either. At this pace, by summer they will have cultivated this field, and if they plant potatoes, they can harvest them by winter. All of them are very good people. Last winter they were starving, and this time Hero won't let it happen. Fields are still needed, and they are now developing the land. They grew this potato from seed potatoes brought from another country, and because potatoes that could grow even in such poor soil appeared, the country was largely saved. Still, it cost them a lot. The hero walks through the hall, exhausted. Mornings were for sword practice, afternoons for training to govern the country, and between them he worked on land development, handling many tasks. The girl then called him. His sister, who he had not seen in a very long time, was there. Meeting him made her glad. She came to retrieve a forgotten item and, with him away on an expedition, fled here. Her name is Miali Cartarosa, the first princess of the kingdom of Cartarosa. She gave her life. At a reception, a prince from a wealthy country noticed her and married her on the condition that he would provide assistance to their country. Thanks to this, they had fewer victims last year, and he still remembers the full hardship of those times. This girl is his first love, but he couldn't help anyone, so he let her go. Rumors about her husband are unflattering, and he is preoccupied, while she is thinner than when there was nothing to eat in their country, and he noticed bruises on her wrist beneath her sleeve. He felt deep sympathy for his sister. He suggested they at least have dinner together, and she didn't mind. After some time, the table was ready. They gave her water, soup made from leftover vegetables, potatoes boiled in salted water, and dried meat. Even this turned out fairly passable. Miali remembered hearing that the hero had been active in business lately, and thanks to him, they were finishing even those lands that were supposed to be developed next year. He tried hard, despite having no place to plant the potato she sent because he did not want her efforts to be in vain. She thanked him and told him he was a good child. Hero asked people to stop calling him a child. Miali said he was only a child and asked him not to do anything foolish. He said he hadn't meant to. Not all powerful, he uses his magic to help develop the lands and gained strength through swordsmanship training with an instructor. Seen in the context of the whole country, his strength alone amounts to powerlessness. Determined to save the country, he was an ordinary office worker with no knowledge at all and no idea how to apply it. so things went wrong for him again and again. Yet he wanted to do something, and every day he recklessly tries everything he can. Noticing he was lost in thought, Mealy told him not to worry, because his little sister would surely think of something. Hiro asked if she would come back if he made the country rich, but making the country rich was impossible, though she was not against the idea. After she eats, she'll leave. She loves her charming Hiro very much. By then she was already standing by the cart. Probably today she came to bring help from that man, the things her sister had given her life for. Angry, he struck the windowsill with his fist. The hero wants to be strong. At this rate, he won't get anywhere by just trying, whether with the sword or with his studies, and unless something special happens, it's over. He will change the current situation, but is there no force suited to his circumstances? A voice suddenly spoke, ready to give him answers. A sudden pang hit his chest. It left him with an aching heart. Turning around, he saw no one. I decided to ask who was here. A voice spoke again, telling him he was the respondent. Something was coming out of him. The pain mixed with heat, and a voice said it had always been inside him and watched over him, and now, because he begged so hard, it came out. It will certainly become his strength. In this world, some people are born with special abilities, and a small number of them can also wield a power called magic. A compact mass of magical energy that answers any question its owner asks. The respondent is his magic. Later, Hiro sat in his room. The respondent lets you obtain information about whatever the magician sees, with more detail depending on the magical power used, and it can be used only once every 30 days. The feature was handy, but using it just once a month made things more complicated. Hiro still decides to do what the world needs now and uses his magic to learn more about it. Then he asked the respondent how to make a fertilizer he could produce himself that would be as effective as possible. He knew immediately he needed nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and other nutrients. That was useful. But Hiro asked whether the respondent could name the shops where he could buy all of it. The respondent confirmed the maximum magic power consumption and chose to disclose rank information as an exception. Creating fertilizer usually takes time, which matters if the hero needs it quickly. He advised studying alchemy. Hiro was surprised to learn about chemistry. The respondent said that using alchemy will cut the work time in half. This magic, banned by the church centuries ago, is called bidden magic. The respondent knows the preparation method and can realize it with alchemy. By doing this, he will save more than just this country, even this entire world. This is all because the church banned alchemy, yet he is not afraid of the bans. If you want to learn alchemy, go about 24 kilometers southeast. The respondent then sent the coordinates straight to Hiro's brain. Claim the legendary alchemist Chronal Kaiser's legacy for yourself. That night, Hiro set out on his journey. During the storm, he knocked a hole in the rock. Climbing inside, he found a cave. This was the place the respondent had pointed to. It was cold because there was no fresh air, but he chose not to use magic to boost his strength because he did not know how much further he had to go. Walking deeper into the cave, it opened into a passage with a path. A huge door stood before him. It looked like a puzzle because it was clearly artificial. Fortunately, Hiro was a puzzle pro. You started assembling the puzzle on the door. When he finished, the puzzle became a button he pressed. The door started to open slowly. Warmth filled the interior, and beyond it a room was visible. Hiro entered the room and saw a beautiful view. At last, a successor has been found for Chronal's alchemy. He had waited 160 years and 32 days for this moment. Hiro asked if the man was Colonel Kaiser, the legendary alchemist. That was true, but not quite accurate, since it was merely a golem with a recorded memory waiting here for its successor. Alchemy could do the same, and Hiro knew the church considered all this a desecration. The golem suddenly said he had no time left because his existence was temporary, and the magic keeping him here would end in 5 days. If that was true, every second counted, so Hiro chose not to hesitate. She immediately asked him to teach alchemy. The golem, glad he hadn't hesitated, planned to hammer the knowledge of alchemy into him in 5 days. Even Hiro thought he was smiling. With little food or water left, he seems able to train for these 5 days without rest or sleep, using magic to restore himself. The main problem is that he won't be at the castle for all those days. Golem said everything he learns in these 5 days will only be a foundation. After that, he will need to study from the materials. After learning the basics and concepts, Hiro will be able to study effectively on their own. Then the golem asked the youth his name. His name is Hiro Carter Rosa. Hearing his last name, the golem thought the family line and those eyes resembled someone he knew. I chose not to dwell on it, and started the lesson as quickly as possible. The hero was simply glad and called him teacher. Nobody has called him that in a long time. After 5 days, he finished his training. The colonel asked whether the foundation of alchemy was perfect. You said yes because alchemy works by infusing magical power in different waves into a special blue gemstone, unlike other magic. Alchemy is like programming with patterns, infusing the code with waves of magical power, and the blue gemstone is like the compiler. Creating magic or code requires basic concepts like functions, pointers, arrays, and parameters. So after finding the seal's locations, thoroughly mix the connections between the magical powers. As a result of combining and smelting, one can produce matter or a body and a soul, such as rational magic. Generalizing everything gives something like this. The colonel was relieved he could teach him, since if anyone else had been there, teaching the basics would likely have been impossible. Hiro was lucky to know programming. If he hadn't, it would have taken him a few days to learn the basics. Cronell said there is no branch of magic like alchemy. It is the most rational and the most beautiful magic. Now he is calm and can finally leave. He chose him as his successor and entrusted him with all his wisdom. Grateful, he thanked Hiro and hoped to gain even more of that knowledge. Let him pass it on to the next generation. Enro gave thanks to his teacher. In the end, he'll do it. He learned the basics and then mastered the concept and the idea. Later, he studied the materials left by the legendary alchemist Cronell Kaiser. He gained alchemy, a banned art that vanished from this world, and with it you can change everything. 2 years have passed since Hiro began studying alchemy. Simply put, alchemy is a processing technology because every process needs a material. You can change a substance a little, but you cannot turn stone into gold. If you use this handy magic, depending on the plan, you can earn a lot of money and become rich. If you only care about yourself, it would be better for him to leave this kingdom. He could find a place anywhere. He won't do that because he loves his kingdom. With just this power, he will save the kingdom. He can bring his sister back. He has learned many things for this, and now he will finally begin to act. He will make sure it gets done, even if he must do it alone. At least that's what he believed. A girl greeted him and labeled him a crybaby hero. Hiro realized she was Hibana. Hibana Clairford is his granddaughter who went to the Kinar Principality to learn swordsmanship, and is also the hero's childhood friend. With her studies finished, she returned home. Hiro asked Hibana to stop calling him a crybaby because he's changed. Hibana smirked at the request. He said she was already 14 and had the skills to join the Bronze Knightly Order of the Principality of Kinar. This was the same elite knightly order that only a top-tier swordsman could join. Bronze may be the lowest, but it is still impressive. Then, Hiro asked why she came back if she could join the Bronze Knight Order at that age, saying she could later join the Golden Knight Order, which would be an honor for any swordsman. After hearing that, Hibana pouted at Hiro. She said she came back because they were communicating, and if he suddenly says he forgot about him, she will hit him. They sat together in the field of flowers. She comforted the hero, crying over Mealy's marriage, and told him to smile or they would be sent home. But the one who bought her was crying too. She cares for Mealy too and doesn't want to see her so sad. The hero said he would change the kingdom. He cannot do it now, but he will definitely change it. Because of that, Hibana decided to become his sword. They promised each other. Hiro was surprised she remembered this. That felt natural. She wanted to be able to say that. In reality, she could not understand herself when she returned to the kingdom. With age, she came to believe the country could no longer be changed, and whenever she went out she saw how dangerous and questionable the kingdom of Kurosa was. The thought of him giving up his dream frightened her. She thought it would be nice to join the Golden Knightly Order. It would have been a good idea, but Hiro still asked how long she had been here. Her grandfather's letter revealed that Hiro could save the kingdom, because he refused to give up and is trying to do something. She returned to be sure he hadn't truly given up on his dream. Surprised, Hiro looked at Hisa, who smiled back. Knowing the hero would act soon, he wrote to Hibana. The prediction was very accurate. Since infancy, he had always looked after him, and no secret could be hidden from him. As a child, he cried all the time. His and Hibana both laughed at this. The hero has Hisa, and Hibana is back. Now is likely the best time. Then Hibana asked to wait. She asked how he planned to save that worthless kingdom. She showed keen interest. Can he actually carry out his plans? After all, she loves this country, wants to save what can be saved, and intends to keep their promise. If this dream is impossible, their only option is to abandon it. Hiro chose to show them something interesting. He led them down into the basement. He led them into a huge hall containing a library and a work area. His and Hibana were stunned. Neither of them knew there was a basement like that in the castle because Hiro created it. Hibana could not believe Hiro had created all of this, both this room and the passage that leads into it. Building a stone wall and installing electricity would take a single person several decades. He agreed that with the kingdom carpenter's skills, building something like that was simply impossible. Hiro said it is possible through magic and impossible by human power. He kept thinking about what he was doing, but he couldn't imagine preparing something like this. They were surprised to find that what Hiro wanted to show them was still ahead. He decided to reveal the results of his 2 years of desperate training and research. This invention will transform the small kingdom of Cartarosa. When he opened the door, they saw dense vegetation. Wheat grew inside, even though it was almost impossible to grow in the kingdom, and their ancestors had tried so many times without success. He used it as a testing ground to design and test inventions that would help their country. Among the items was wheat. Selection strengthened its vigor so it can now grow even in cold climates, is less prone to disease, and grows much faster. Plant in spring or early summer for very fast growth. It tastes good and contains a lot of sugar, so bread made with it will turn out fluffy and sweet. Hibana, amazed, asked if planting it in the ground would make it grow the same way. Even the finest wheat won't do any good if there is no nutritious soil. It will not germinate. I decided to show which fertilizer is used on this soil. He showed them the monster's corpse lying among the wheat, creatures destroying their country. He said their bodies carry a miasma that makes them unsafe to eat and harms the environment. Hiro devised the seed for that reason. He planted a seed inside a corpse. A sprout immediately popped out of it. The buds will start to sprout, neutralizing miasmas during nutrient assimilation. Afterward, the body begins to dry out and return to the soil. The soil becomes very rich because the monster's body contains a lot of energy. I could hardly believe how amazing it was. That wheat can grow in this country. This kingdom's land has great potential and could even become a major food exporter to large countries. I find this very interesting. This is only the beginning, and his power can change everything. He made that promise as a helpless child, but now things are different, and he can make his dream come true. He suggested she keep their mutual promise. Hibana gladly agreed. His power will soon change this kingdom, and she asks to see it from a special vantage point. She vowed to be his sword. He looked at him and turned to the hero. He asked again, since he had built this basement and grown the wheat. The hero confirmed it. He asked whether all this had been done with the help of something the church had banned several hundred years ago. Still, nothing can be hidden from him, the hero said. He confirmed he used alchemy. If this comes to light, the church will take action. The hero reassured him not to worry and promised to do everything right. He's already decided everything. He knows the power is forbidden, but if it can save the kingdom, he'll use it. Church influence does not affect him, and he will defend his beloved cause. His and Hibana looked at him, surprised. Eros' gaze showed strong determination. He decided to help him. I asked him to let me help him. Without warning, Hibana grabbed him. She pulled him back, saying his hand was always touching her. Using alchemy, he ensures she will not change her mind. If they harm him because of this, she will kill them. Then he began to count on them. Hibana offered herself to Hiro as a knight and asked him to initiate her now. Heath said that to become a knight, you must have an official initiation ceremony, and she cannot be the personal knight of anyone in the royal family. This rule seems really stupid to her. The royal family must initiate the knight, lead the ceremony, and present the sword they made, because initiation into a knight is a vital tradition and nothing can be left out. He wrote that he didn't mind holding a ceremony to show everyone that she was his knight, because she had become his secret accomplice, and he needed her to act freely. Hibana suggested using a cheap sword, but Hiro refused because she would be protecting him with it. Jokingly, she asked him to make her a sword using alchemy. Hiro had already planned to do it. He will forge a sword that can surpass even the Principality of Kinar's sacred sword. He aimed quite high in the Principality of Kinar, where only 12 knights of the Golden Order are allowed to carry sacred swords. Unless they do this, they cannot enrich their kingdom. Hiro asked Hibana to hand over his sword, use it as a base to make a new one, and choose a well-used sword with good balance and a long blade. Made from an iron-based alloy, the sword's blade is expertly forged and polished, and he wondered how many decades of blacksmithing it would take to make such a sword. Using magic for this feels a bit unfair. He asked Hibana if she had any specific requirements for the sword. Her technique favors speed over weight, and she prefers to cut rather than crush, so a light sword that allows sustained intensity with a slightly shorter blade and a slightly lower center of gravity, would be ideal. The hero clearly faced more demands than he had expected. He agreed anyway and took the item out of his pocket. He assumed a stance and began preparing the spell. He concentrated on these two subjects. Magic started to gather around the small object. A second sword formed in his other hand. He matched Hibana's sword exactly. He uses the bracelet that way, and the sword was made of mithril, a legendary metal. This is the essence of alchemy. Hibana stepped in front of the knight statue and swung at him. She struck him squarely with her sword. The statue split into two pieces in an instant. Hibana was taken aback by this. Cutting the statue didn't make her feel anything. Even Hiro was surprised. Without using any magic to strengthen her body, she cut the statue in half. Hibana wanted to show him how strong she really was. You can tell from her appearance that she is skilled at controlling magic, but she has not used it yet. Turning, she faced the hero. She asked to take the mithril sword, but the hero refused immediately. It's his sword, and he lent it to her temporarily. He told her not to get too upset. He promised to make her a sword far better than this experimental one. He planned to make it from the materials he'd stored. Waiting was no longer an option. So eager for the sword, she cannot be let down. Hiro began making a sword for Hibana. He uses special materials for the sword and won't use mithril, so if he is making a really strong sword, he uses good materials. These are not metals. The monster fangs and skins he used as fertilizer were metal-like, hard, sticky, and difficult to break. Just as they enchant their swords, monsters enchant their weapons, creating a close link to magical power. The magic sword forged from a monster's body is a powerful weapon, but its miasma harms the bearer. Some people are strong enough to wield a magic sword. When infected with miasma, removing it is the basic goal of alchemy. The miasma all drew together into a single ball. Quickly, she pulled herself inside the ball. This crystal ball is an alchemical tool created to remove miasma. It was filled to the brim with miasma, so he decided to keep it for the future. The monster's material, freed from miasma, is crushed with a special hammer he made by hand and then melted down. And doing it by ordinary forging would require a huge furnace and special chemicals. He now uses 3 monsters: Big Bear, Hunting Dog, and Golden Eagle. All are powerful monsters, and their parts must be melted and mixed into a single whole, with the right combinations increasing the synergistic effect. The respondent showed him a method of making a sword by combining monsters, so he boasted he could forge one equal to the Kanar Principality's sacred sword. And he also has the knowledge he gathered from the respondent over the past 2 years. The next step is to use magic to shape the sword to Hibana's specifications, setting its center of gravity, blade length, appearance, and so on. He created it, it was beautiful, and it is hard to believe it will be used to commit murder. The final step is to inscribe cutting runes on the blade to increase the sword's power. Next, apply the enchantment. This is true alchemy. The magic soaks into the material and strengthens its essence. Enchanted base cut used enchantment to strengthen the sword's base. The result was really good. Hibana is sure to be happy. Hibana Clareford started being knighted. Her vow bound her sword to Prince Hiro. She whispered, thanking Hiro for making the sword for her. She had never seen one so beautiful and strong. She did not look very cheerful, so he asked if she disliked it. She also said she was simply nervous and afraid of what people might say if she didn't do well. Hibana cannot fail, the hero said. It probably does not matter to anyone that the third prince has such a knight in his service. Hibana is Hisa's granddaughter and trained in the Principality of Kinar, so there is nothing to complain about her as a knight. Everyone here already recognizes Hibana's true strength. I want her to serve me. Some people here clearly agree. Unfortunately for them, that is not the case. Hibana is his friend, and they made a single promise. His partner in strength. Finally, he can start moving. He has many tasks to complete with his comrades. 2 players still want to act. Hibana thanked Hiro for knighting her and promised to protect his sword. Yet she also had something for him. He didn't expect it. She showed him the toy sheep. It was his respondent, she said, and it looked more like an accessory. Using responder makes him look like he's talking to himself, which makes her a little sad, so she wondered what would happen if he had someone else take over as responder. Then she picked up the toy, pretended to be him, and said hello to Hiro. He said he'd consider using it. I asked her what she was doing, and she said she was training. He was struck that she was doing it right there in the room with him. She said nothing could be done, and as his knight, she had to stay by his side. To become someone's sword means becoming stronger than everyone else, and if she does not, she is a liar. Knowing 8 more people who are stronger than her, She needs to catch up because she spends all her free time training. She was confident she could beat 4 knights from the 12th Golden Order of the Principality of Kanar, and for Hiro it was enough that she was with him. Even if they saved up, they still could not get the Bronze Knights, so it was good that he had Hibana. He asked what she thought of the sword. If she was pleased, the sword was very strong. You can kill an enemy with a sword only if he is not using a sacred or a magic sword. You can ignore someone in simple armor because she is his knight and needs a sword. He was confident she could handle him. Maybe she can practice today. Enro told her to get ready to leave. They were ready to leave the castle. A man appeared in the doorway without warning, who asked Hiro where he was headed. Agatha's brother Cartarosa was the second prince of the Cartarosa kingdom. Agatha noticed that the hero, as always, is busy winning favor with the townspeople, and as a prince, he makes new discoveries while hiding his identity by posing as the town doctor. He asked what he should do next time because rumors were spreading. He came to see what the hero was doing after trying to distribute the wheat. Hiro must be careful, yet no one can escape him. He said he won't chase popularity because he only wants the kingdom to grow rich. Agatha was convinced Hiro intended to eliminate him and his brother Takuma and then take the throne. Hiro said again he wouldn't do it. If people are knowledgeable in different areas, in politics, he is no match for Agatha, and Agatha herself is more suitable for the role of king. In some situations, they need a strong king, but Takumu's older brother, though brave and a good strategist, lacks the talent to be one. Agatha trusted Hiro, since Miali and Hiro hold this kingdom together. He even expected brother Agatha to say something like that. He said the hero is trying to jump over his head and hide what he's doing now, but he won't succeed. The hero told him to stop talking nonsense and get to the point because Agatha could not go only to his hated younger brother. Agatha said he still isn't cute. Brother Tsukumo asked me to pass this along. As Hiro approaches his 14th birthday, he is declared an adult and ordered to prepare to serve the imperial family by fighting monsters. Agatha noticed that Hiro had picked a single knight for himself, although a whole squad would have been better. Enro asked if he was concerned about him. He refused immediately and said it would be unbearable to have to look after him. Hiro assured him he was strong, though not as strong as Takumu's brother. He stayed the same. Agatha then noticed the girl was brimming with bloodlust and wasn't even trying to hide it. He approached her and asked if she would come to him. This proposal surprised Hibana. Hiro understood why he had come here. Brother needs a knight like Hibana, now at bronze rank. Agatha promised to give her a far better weapon than Hiro had. Hibana refused right away because it would obviously be boring. She has already promised to become the hero's sword. Agatha felt a little sorry, but an odd man notices another odd man from afar. He turned, began to walk away, and then remembered something. He told Hiro to call immediately if his plan suddenly required him. This is why he really came here. If Takumi becomes king, everything will end, and to make that happen, they must unite. Most likely, he plans to use Hiro to put himself ahead of Takumu's brother in the line of succession. However, only he could use Hiro's inventions effectively, and since he could only make things he needed Agat's power. That was a very good offer. He said he would think it over, and if Agatha truly wanted to help, his assistance would be useful. Agatha then waited for his correct answer. Hibana felt deeply indignant. His invitation was so casual that she could never understand him. The hero confirmed Agatha was sincere. Though he showed enough common sense that his words weren't lies, Hibana still considered him a liar. After all, he always spoke ill of the hero, and a gap remains between the brothers. It is unclear whether he is related to them by blood. One day his father appeared out of nowhere and announced that the hero was his son. The brothers are understandably upset that a child of unknown origin can inherit the throne. Hibana then remembered what he had said earlier. She asked again, saying Hiro doesn't want to be king. Being a prince suited him better, since he could do whatever he wanted. If he becomes king, he won't have time for alchemy and will blame his brothers for everything. Hibana believed he would become king. With sharp intuition, she naturally wants to be the king's knight. They decided to go, and today they would need the strength she was proud of. After a while, they found themselves in the forest. More precisely, the Devil's Forest. This area lets her take on powerful monsters. Hibane was pleased because basic training hadn't helped her improve. Those are big words for a place this dangerous. Devil's Forest. This forest is home to evil monsters that nest and live here and can cause massive damage to the surrounding area. Even when monsters are killed, their bodies cannot be reused, so they must be left in the forest, creating a heavy burden for the kingdom of Cartarosa. Hibana asked if they were sure these clothes would work for a stealth mission. Hiro said he made these clothes with alchemy. He fashioned it from an insect monster's thread, and enchanted it the same way he did her sword. These threads are extremely protective. As hard as steel, Hibana tried to stab the hero with a knife. She really didn't cut him. Hiro asked why she didn't believe him. If it had only been a near miss, he would already be dead. She insisted someone who lies when lives are at stake must die. He was not dead in any sense, so she asked what the problem was. In the Principality of Kinar, she learned this, because there you have to be strong. As her master, he knew he would have to break her of her bad habits, and it would not be easy. Hibana said the hero has been her childhood friend, and she finds him easy to talk to. He was even a bit pleased to hear that. Hibana wondered why they had come here. He will recall that he had said nothing, and decided to offer 2 reasons. First, he wants to check the resources here for himself. She asked whether OR deposits could really exist in this forest. That could work, but he still wants to know what kind of monsters are here. Monsters are a kind of resource too. I used the monsters as fertilizer, and I even made their clothes and Hibana's sword from monster parts. Using alchemy, he can harness monsters, the only resource their kingdom has. Agreeing with him, she asked whether he wanted to know what kinds of monsters were here and what they could do. After he confirmed it, they will go deeper into the forest. She said that if Hibana suddenly got scared, she could run away calmly, because the monsters they'd fought so far had lost the fight for territory and were weak compared to the much stronger ones waiting deep in the forest. Her blood was boiling, so she said she couldn't run away, and at last she could test her baby in action. Hearing from her was very reassuring. They reached the barricades first, so dangerous monsters await beyond. Hibana recalled and asked what the second reason was. He said every effort to save this kingdom matters. Hibana couldn't make sense of his words. Guards suddenly closed in and questioned Prince Hiro about their presence, then told him to leave because it was dangerous. He reassured them not to worry and asked if they recognized his sword. He reassured them that his knight was stronger than he was, so there would be no problems. He asked them to let the people through because it was very important. They listened to him but asked him not to overdo it. They asked to be more careful. They suddenly heard the clank of armor in the distance. They still needed to talk eventually. He wouldn't want to meet him this early. When the guards opened the gates, a man with an army stood behind them. He came back safe and sound. Takumu Cartarosa was the first prince of the Cartarosa kingdom. Takumu hadn't expected to run into Hiro here. Caught off guard, he asked if they were really going to kill monsters. He said this is a battlefield and you cannot be unprepared here. He cannot go back because he came prepared. Takumu said he can do what he wants, but Takumu will not help him, and the main thing is that he must not die. If she's here, he definitely won't die. Hiro confirmed his night was truly wonderful. Takumu then said he already knew the hero and Agatha were fighting. Surprisingly, he found out quickly, since only a few hours had passed. Agatha said they were working with him to distract Takuma. Takumu told him not to do anything unnecessary. The kingdom must not become rich until the right time. Hiro immediately thought that the neighboring country might attack them. Right now, they are not being captured because their kingdom has no value. Once rich and more populous, the kingdom was captured by a neighboring country, and its last remaining territory now borders the Devil's Forest. Neighboring militant countries will certainly seize any valuable assets in this territory. Hiro told his brother that when the time was right, he would retake the captured lands, but their forces were unequal, and even if he reclaimed the land, they would not be able to defend it. Takuma's brother plans to reclaim the land that supplied much of the kingdom's food. Returning those lands will increase food and population and solve most of the kingdom's problems. The main problem is retaliation after reclaiming the land, and you cannot win a direct war against a country with twice the population. Takumu probably has a short-term card that can win, not a completely doomed plan. Right now, he's simply gathering strength and will certainly carry out his plan, unless they take extra steps. If the enemy learns about it and attacks before he decides, it's all over. Consider this a warning. If they interfere with him, he will not care that they are his brothers. Only he can help the kingdom. After that, they will handle the work with Agate, where he will not be able to help at all. They're smart, strange guys. They are essential to the kingdom. They were tense at first, but after a while they started to leave. Hiro exhaled as they walked farther away. Warning. Doing this repeatedly will kill him, but he will not let go of his hands. In a sense, it is correct that the only way to make a kingdom rich is to win a war. Aware of Brother Takumu's plans, Brother Agata stays on guard. The chances of defeating the neighboring countries are slim, and they will not be able to keep winning. Aware of this, he believes that if he leaves everything to Takuma, they will die. So he didn't offer to help the man he hated. even though he intended to stop him. Agatha and Takumu plan to save the kingdom in different ways. Takumu wants to become a vassal of a powerful country, so it will protect them from neighboring countries. Agatha sees Takumu as an obstacle she cannot do anything about. Two brothers clash, each trying to save the kingdom in their own way, though they share the same desires. He noticed Hibana had gone quiet. At first, she knew he was powerful, but seeing him armed on the battlefield was a different matter. The hero understood her because he was the strongest man in the kingdom. He might even beat a Golden Order knight if they used the same weapons. Hiro asked whether it was true, but it was strong without reaching that level. He said that if he truly plans to kill Hiro, Hibana will have to fight him, and he asked if she could defeat him. According to her, he would wait 3 minutes. Hiro understood everything, and will avoid a violent confrontation with his brother. In a collision, she will give him time to get away. It felt like a warning about how he might die, so he avoided conflict whenever he could. He will first rely on Brother Agatha to spread his inventions, then on Brother Takumu and his army afterward, and their kingdom will become rich. He plans to equip his brother's army with powerful weapons created through alchemy. I want to give back the lands we captured. They will have the military strength to retake and defend the lands. He wants Takumu's power and his army. His brothers are wonderful and stubborn, but hard to talk to. Hibana realized the sun's rays barely reached this place. At last, they set out to find monsters. When Takuma's brother appeared, their conversation was interrupted, and she reminded him to explain the second reason. Hiro remembered this, but still chose to explain the second reason for the trip. The second reason involves salt. Hibana was surprised to learn about salt. She asked if he meant the salt in the Devil's Forest in the Rocky Mind. Hiro said that actually there is a sea behind the forest he saw on the Great Alchemist's map. Ivana was surprised to learn about the sea. She found it promising because if the map was correct, they would be able to get as much salt as they wanted from the neighboring kingdoms where only rock salt existed and could enter a new market. Since everything was correct, they should stop debating whether the sea exists, except that it does, and focus on how to build a safe road because that is important. This forest has dangerous monsters and terrible roads. It is risky even for ordinary soldiers, so he built a compass. He added a magic arrow to the compass and now wants to combine the search with testing it. It determines the current location using the 2 stones that point in the same direction. He's glad he could confirm the regular compass doesn't work. Then Hibana stays calm and avoids dwelling on troubles. After all, she is afraid of monsters, she said in jest. As they remembered the monster, she heard a noise. She did notice after all. That was a great opportunity. Hiro told Hibana to watch his fight and not help him. Although she was his protector, Hibana agreed because she needed to understand his abilities. He began transforming the mithril. Mithril turned into a bow. Next, he began transforming gunpowder. Created the explosive arrow Red Lotus. After completing the 5th form transformation, he created the magic bow. He was surprised to have created a bow from mithril and an arrow from gunpowder. He began applying analysis. Yet it appeared as a magical vision in his right eye. This spell enhances your eye's insight, and by investing magic, you gain the ability to predict and see through a creature. Studied the monster's muscle structure and center of gravity, and now sees these movements. He decided to add some wind. He shot an explosive arrow from his bow. The monster was already on him. The arrow struck his head. A second later, the monster exploded. Abena realized Hiro had anticipated the monster's jump and blew it up. Sealing the magic power, he made it react with the gunpowder in a single blow. The monster was very tenacious. If he had not done this, they would have had no chance of winning. A rustling came from behind Hiro again. He then changed the bow into its second form, the magic spear. To her surprise, the hero wasn't a swordsman. Claiming to be an alchemist, he said he could use everything he made. Use a bow for long range and a spear for medium range, a sword for close combat, a knife for very close defense, and a shield for protection. For a strong blow, he uses a hammer. The weapon had 1,000 faces. Mithro's magical transformation. It was cool, but Hibana thought he wasn't allowed to use a weapon that could change. If he has only one kind of weapon, he won't stand a chance against your sword and will become a burden. So Hibana pushed him aside. She faced the bear monster. She strikes him with her sword, cutting off his paw. She swung her sword at the bear's leg. She dashed straight toward him again. Cut this head off, that you can sever his limbs with a single blow. He and Hiro held different values. It's still pretty good. He barely had time to breathe because she had a beautiful sword technique. He asked whether everyone in the Principality of Kianar was a monster like her. She reminded him that 8 others were stronger than she was. They still pose a threat to them. She asked why he thought that, since they were not at odds. Right now, the kingdom of Katarosa holds no interest for them. But if he enriches it, the situation will be completely different. They can destroy Katarosa while it is weak and take all his inventions. Strengthening the kingdom matters as much as enriching it, so he wants the landmark. A kingdom strong enough to defeat the principality of Kinar, and if it became that powerful, it would lose to no one. As befits a prince, he thinks about things like that. She asked if we could take these claws for them because they're quite sharp. A special miasma bag is reserved for this occasion. Without him, the miasma would have killed them. Hibana asked whether they needed to treat them. The hero said doing this requires magic, and he wants to reserve it for more essential uses in the forest, so he cannot. At last, she lifted 30 kilograms easily and was ready to go. Since the hero hasn't finished exploring this forest yet, Hibana wants them to face a stronger monster. He asked if she knew the bear was called a blade bear, and that anyone who meets it will die, because it is an A-rank, extremely dangerous monster. He was much stronger than him. I realized then that with Hibana by his side, they could not kill him, because she was a very reliable knight. At last, they reached the sea. A salty smell hung in the air, and the waves could be heard. But at first, Hibana could not believe they had reached the sea. Seeing the sea, Hiro felt immediately inspired. This is salt. If they can bring it from here, they can sell it to neighboring countries and earn money. The half-day trip was worth it, and he asked Hibana how much more she could carry. Carrying about 50 kilograms of monster material now, she can take an additional 50 kilograms. She asked whether he was asking this to learn if she had managed to save him, since she couldn't put too much pressure on herself. They will take 100 kilograms of salt, and he will take 50 kilograms for himself. Hibana asked if he really needed to take so much at once since they had already found the sea. Taking 100 kilograms all at once would make a good gift for the kingdom, he explained. The annual salt use per person is about 1.5 kilograms, so 1,000 people need 1.5 tons, and bringing 100 kilograms 15 times will replenish the kingdom's yearly salt supply. To ease matters, he'll act a bit recklessly. He hoped to collect the salt by the end of the day. He suggested they begin making salt. Hibana asked if she could help, and he said to wait until later. She decided to go fishing while she waited and quickly undressed. He wondered if she felt ashamed. She quickly caught a fish to eat. The water was pleasant, so she asked him if he would like to swim. He planned to do it after he finished what he had come to do. He readied himself to cast a spell. Rowing, he pushed the water aside. He made a glass pool from sand. It surprised her that he did it. I thought about how many days it would have taken if they had built the pool the usual way. Ero stared at Hibana in her swimsuit. It was too early to be surprised, he told himself. He makes a hose from his intestines, an unpleasant sight. Next, he will fill the pool with water. The water started flowing on its own, and Hibana asked whether it was magic, but it was just ordinary science. This system uses the siphon principle, so water flows from the higher sea level into the lower pool. It then turns the seawater into salt. It's pure alchemy, and it doesn't need much magic, she asked. He said they couldn't wait for the water to dry on its own, so there was nothing they could do about it. All of the water evaporated, leaving only salt. Hibana was excited they got salt. The hero started adding water again. Seawater has only 4% salt, and he knows how much water to add to fill the pool completely. Collecting salt is more efficient when its concentration and amount are increased. He repeated it many times. He found it hard to release so much magic so often. Hibana suddenly wiped the sweat from his forehead. She handed him some water. She told him not to push himself if he suddenly felt ill and advised him to rest. The hero will be finished very soon. Unless they collect it now, all effectiveness will be lost. He asked Hibana to help collect salt. This bag is also made from me, and it can stretch a lot. Hibana cut the log into planks, and using those planks, they began to gather salt. She wondered if making salt was really that easy. Doing everything yourself without alchemy will take at least a week. She considered how much training would be needed to raise her magical power that much. Hiro was simply lucky to be born with so much magical power. It's a miracle he has so much magic. And there is a respondent. The more magic the respondent pours in, the more information is obtained, and only he can use it to its full potential. Hibana felt a little envious and asked why he didn't use magic to gather all the salt. Heading back to the Devil's Forest, he feared his magic might not be enough, and apologized that he would have to work with his hands. She understood it all and treated it as another valuable training session, carrying bags and walking through the forest. Also, she heard something here. The prince was unusual and built new roads alongside the peasants. Realizing that, he admitted he was rather a strange person. Hearing that, She thought he was a great guy, and that she might do the same. Training your body while helping others feels great. Embarrassed that she had even heard about it, he was also glad. He chose to honor her as a heroine. He knew a sea lay here and that salt could be made, but he did nothing. Alone, he could not get through the devil's forest. She went with him so they can now give people salt. He thanked her for her help. A little embarrassed, she was still happy. She thanked him as well and was glad to have become his knight, because he could actually save the kingdom. They decided to return home and bring salt to the people. It was already dark by the time they began walking. Hibana spotted barricades ahead. She still has a lot of strength left. They had been walking for a long time, and even she was tired. She could walk in the moonlight because she was well trained, and Hiro could walk because he had magical vision. She then noticed they encountered almost no monsters along the way. That's because he wore that perfume. The hero's new invention, she thought, had removed the smell of their sweat, the scent monsters hate most. This is just a trial sample, but it already shows results, and she suggested it would be much easier to use while traveling. He used it to find out what kind of monsters were here, and if he could, he would avoid using those spirits. But given the situation and his fatigue, not using them would be dangerous. There are 11 types of monsters in the forest. These perfumes don't work on 3 of them. He learned that some monsters are not bothered by the smell, and some have no sense of smell. His aim is to let ordinary soldiers safely pass through this forest by using spirits. That was the purpose of the test. Hibana grasped everything he explained. Today was a hard day. He learned about monsters, tested the compass, found the sea, made salt, and tested the perfume. Now, perhaps the most important thing is about to begin. As Hibana began to ask what he meant, the guards called to Prince Hiro. They became very worried because they had been away for a long time. Apologizing for the timing, he said he urgently needed to go to the castle because the brothers were definitely not sleeping at this time. The man who wants to save this country won't wait until tomorrow, so we ask them to tell Takumu and Agat that he has salt. Takumu and Agatha stood in the room with the guards. Place bags of salt in the center. Just then, Hiro walked in with Hibana, and she greeted them. Agatha complained that he had called them but arrived late himself. The hero apologized because they were dirty and needed to change. He asked if the salt was involved. It was clear they were worried he had found salt. Everyone here has their own dream. First, Prince Hakumu Kartarosa is the kingdom's strongest warrior, and his goal is to save the kingdom by force and reclaim the rich land taken by neighboring kingdoms and the people living there. The second prince, Agatha Kartarosa, is shrewd and calculating, and his goal is to save the kingdom through diplomacy by making it a vassal of a more powerful country. Hiro Kartarosa matches his brothers. The third prince acts as a spare brother. So far he had done as he pleased, but he seized the chance to give salt to the people, and today he will fight for his dream. Takumu didn't want to drag it out, so he asked him directly where he got the salt. Hiro said a sea lay beyond the devil's forest, where he built a pool to evaporate the salt. Yes, if it were true. How many deaths has salt caused? Because the neighboring country controls the salt, they sell their treasures to buy it. They don't have enough and waste food, so their people die of hunger. Their kingdom urgently needs salt. The lie about salt only mocks those who shed tears. Hiro said he wasn't rotten enough to lie about salt. Takumu understood it all. People praised him for it. Asking a man aiming to be the next king to acknowledge his achievements is a bad move. It's not what he expected, but now is the time to ask him. Then he approached Takumu with a single request. Only they and Hibana can pass through the devil's forest. And if anything happens to them, the salt won't be delivered, and they can't be left without it. He asked him to hand over his army. Takumu agreed without hesitation. Tomorrow he would choose his best fighters, send them, and personally see them off. Hiro was glad Takumu was coming too, because he could show him how to make salt. He can rely on the soldiers his brother trained, and it's good they didn't ask him anything. Agatha suddenly said they were out of their minds because this was the devil's forest. It was easy to get lost, and they had to consider what would happen if dangerous monsters attacked. Their kingdom was on the brink, and they could not let their soldiers die in vain. Unlike Takuma, he understands this easily and has achieved great results, while Takuma wants to set up a reliable supply of salt. Agatha is not interested, but he needs to be convinced. Otherwise, there will be many problems. Hiro told him to calm down, so he made magical devices. A magic compass that can find the way back. With it, they won't get lost. And if they use these spirits, 3 of the 11 monster types will not approach them. Top squads will likely handle the remaining 3 types. He has prepared information about the monsters and their weaknesses. Faced with the new types of monsters, he doesn't know how to handle them and can't take action yet. Takumu agreed with Hiro because he and his knight had made the whole journey together and had confirmed that the compass and the spirits worked. Kumu asked whether his army could do what Hiro could do. If Agatha meant that, he'll take it as an insult. Agatha said there was no guarantee the hero was telling the truth. Takumu then pointed out to him how much salt the hero had brought, and Agatha still doubts there is a sea beyond this devilish forest. They can save their subjects. After hearing everything, Agatha agreed. He knows getting salt is a top priority. I decided to ask Kuro how he knew there was a sea behind the forest. He can't go to such a dangerous place without being sure he has explored everything since finding this sea. That confidence must have a reason, given how he produced so much salt in one day and why he made tools to travel through the forest. There's a reason for all this. He was always impressive and intimidating, but this goes too far. He demanded that Hiro explain himself or he would not believe him. This time, Takumu agreed with Agatha. Hiro couldn't tell because there were too many people here to talk to. His condition was that they release the guards. After a while, they were left alone. A guard stood outside the door, but he still felt uneasy. His father told him one day that he was adopted. I'm not sure they treat him like a little brother, and he's afraid of the power they show. Not only that, they and their brothers see different ways to save the kingdom, and they know it. They are brothers but enemies of each other. For his wish to come true, they need the power of these two, so hiding his power from them would be a mistake, and because it may still be needed, he will reveal his secret. The brothers want to save the kingdom. If they are sure his help will save the kingdom, he will support them. He believes in the brothers' love for their kingdom. He must persuade them that this power will benefit them. He said he inherited an alchemist's estate, mastered alchemy, used it to make tools, and learned about the sea from a map that came with the inheritance. Now that they had heard it, they could expel him from the kingdom, and he wondered what they would do. Takumu will ask if he understood that the church forbade alchemy. He won't escape punishment by dying now. He will still save the kingdom using alchemy. Without action, it will die. They must each understand that individually they cannot win this battle. Takumu and Agatha thought it over and realized they couldn't ignore it. He asks Takumu to assemble a squad of soldiers armed with magical weapons to attack neighboring countries. The hero also understood this, a good observation. His plan to close the strength gap is to arm elite soldiers with magic swords, because with powerful weapons, they will become the strongest and he can reclaim the lands taken from them. This is his dream. Poorly equipped, their troops are strong from constant fighting with monsters, and although they are not hostile to Kinara, they have elite units that can match the Golden Knights, but they still lack overall military power. This had no future. The magic sword's miasma would consume them. Even a temporary victory would sacrifice the elite soldiers. Ahead is a terrifying collapse of power and brutal retribution. He then turned to Agatha to ask whether he would really seek protection from other powerful countries, and whether he intended to save the country by selling it. Hiro discovered everything, including things about him. Agatha said there was no other way to save their kingdom, and that it was better than the plan the idiot Jock proposed. Hiro, however, didn't think it would change anything. The kingdom already gave up its sister to survive, so what does he plan to do next to save himself? Belonging to someone means having nothing of your own. Diplomacy is needed to prevent this from happening, said Agatha. He could probably handle it, but Hiro knows his limits. He only keeps them alive, and that won't save the kingdom. He rejects all their plans. Since he refuses, Hiro is really going to have to use alchemy to save them. He said they had more than just salt and promised to show them another way out. He asked Hibana to demonstrate alchemy's power to him. Opening the door, she invited them in. A girl walked into the room holding something. When the guard tried to throw her out, Takumu told him to let her in. The girl lifted the rag that covered the bread. The bread was white. Takumu asked right away whether they really grew wheat in Cratorosa. This could not be, and Agatha even thought he had bought it. Alchemy baked the bread from wheat grown in their kingdom. The monster's body makes good fertilizer. This wheat resists cold and disease and grows in 3 months. If they do not believe it, the arrow could lead them to the fields. Alchemy lets him do even more. He suggested they try it and said he hadn't put anything in it. Kumu picked up the bread and bit off a piece. The bread was really delicious. We never imagined their kingdom had such delicious bread. Wheat is easy to grow and tastes good, far tastier than in other countries. Alchemy can do that as well. Hiro said alchemy not only enriches life, and asked Hibana to give the sword to her brother. Hibana agreed. but only on the condition that they return it later. Takumu stared at the sword in wonder. This sword has no miasma and is far stronger than their swords. As expected, Takumu understood it all at a glance. It's all alchemy. The hero can remove all miasma from his squad's magic swords. No, he will make them even better and forge swords that surpass them. He reiterated that he rejected Takumu's idea of war and Agatha's idea of a colony. He will enrich the kingdom through alchemy, and they have salt, wheat, and swords. He will show them a prosperous kingdom that can defend itself against other countries. With all this, they can protect themselves, and he wants to do more than just protect them. Their subjects have suffered enough, and they deserve to be happy too. He is not satisfied with just ending hunger. His aim is to make the kingdom prosperous. Takumu and Agata met his gaze. Then they laughed loudly together. Takumu's willingness to sacrifice his knights' lives would be far worse than his younger brother's alchemy. Agatha agreed. They would just be wasting their lives. They even said the hero was right. They only caused a delay and could not secure the kingdom's prosperity. Deep down, they knew it. They refused to give up, and he was determined to save the kingdom. It's strange that he's happy the kingdom will be saved. The hero thought that despite his laughter, he was clearly sad. He revealed his secret to them because he saw they wanted to save the kingdom, though the form is different. The meaning is the same. He asked them not to say he could handle it alone or that everything they did was pointless. His one request was that they help him. He can make this country rich, but he can't control everything or fight like Takumi. He won't be able to inspire people or negotiate with neighboring countries. Alchemy only makes useful things, and if you use it wrong, it will fail and nothing will work, so he needs their power. He says he intends to use both of them. Agatha called him stupid. He can't seriously expect them to go along with him. No, he wants them to use it. He trusts their strength and intelligence. United, they can save their kingdom. He can work in the shadows, but he needs them at his side. Let them decide who will be the next king. Takumu and Agatha looked at each other. These are the hero's words, and this is what he really means. Nothing can be done. If his younger brother says something like that, he cannot remain silent like a child. Now he will command Takumu's army and serve as a general, not a prince. Agatha decided to help Hiro, even though he was less capable or had only accidentally inherited the alchemist's legacy. She did not want to follow him, but if their ship was sinking, she had no choice but to help him. He will help him and later become a minister. Hiro asked what they meant by that. Takumu explained that he had stepped down from the throne in his favor. Agatha did it too because it would be better for the kingdom, and they would recognize him. They will keep quiet about alchemy. And if he believes in himself, he can save their kingdom, and they will help him. These are the kind of brothers he has, and they asked him whether he believed him. If he tells them whether they're telling the truth, they'll take it as an insult. Then he asked them for help. They gladly told him to depend on them. For the first time, the three princes of Cardaros have united. This marks the start, not of saving the kingdom of Cartarosa, but of prosperity. He believed that together they could do anything, but that confidence was unfounded. Morning arrived and the hero woke with a wide yawn. He seemed tired after negotiating with his brothers. He didn't like it much. You heard a voice behind you ask if he was going the right way. Takumu's squad and I, having collected our equipment, were heading toward the sea. It was good they all came together in the end. He was told to practice alchemy to enrich the kingdom, manage the army, attend to domestic politics, and negotiate with other countries, but he could not do it all. He can confidently trust his brothers to handle tasks that match their strengths. There was one problem. After his brothers gave up the throne, he automatically became the next king. Agatha took on the usual tasks, but some work still requires a king. Hibana said yesterday was cool, just what you'd expect from a prince, though she now has to call him king. He asked her to simply call him Hiro. That's the name he wants. Hibana consented to this. She remembered that since returning she had never seen the king. Hiro said his father is sick and has been in a coma for several years. Takumu was only meant to serve as acting king temporarily, but since his elder brothers have renounced the throne, he will now be acting king. Because the father might wake, choosing a king at will is impossible, so the regency is one cause of the kingdom's instability. Hibana understood it all and wished him luck. Hiro told him to stop treating her like a stranger. If he is very busy, she will be busy too, since they might send an assassin depending on what happens next. Agreeing, she decided she needed more training to get stronger, but she does not know how to work with a sparring partner, and training alone will not let her surpass herself. She asked if he knew anyone strong. Hiro suggested she ask Takuma about it. He is also looking for a sparring partner now. Hibana asked if Hiro would win using alchemy, and he said that even with a good magically transformed weapon, his brother would still break it. He is unique, strong, and skilled. That's what he is. Anti added that she was no match for him. He was fairly direct. Takumu is a military genius, skilled in strategy, and above all in personal combat, and during a skirmish with a neighboring country he noticed the enemy was 5 times stronger. When Hiro says she is no match for someone, she still finds herself challenging him even more. She really has changed. Hibana had one more question and asked who baked that bread. She knew wheat was ordinary, but turning it into such delicious bread required real skill. Hiro said this was his secret employee and promised to introduce her later. Surprised that the secret agent was a girl, she heard the hero say there was nothing between them. Takumu suddenly stepped up to Hiro and spoke. He asked whether they had lost their way. The compass shows they are on the right track. For a moment, Hibana almost thought it was a bear. The soldiers marched on, moving farther and farther. Hiro expected they would just come to the sea, look around, and leave. Takumo said they would camp by the sea because making salt would take strength and time. It wasn't just the knights he was recruiting people for the escort. The kingdom was wise to have about 50 idle knights. The remaining knights work in the royal fields and have no time to train. Rather than sending valuable, specialized knights to mine salt, it would be more efficient to build a base and escort the real miners to the sea. Takumu asked whether he could build the road by himself. Dense trees and tall grass make it hard to walk and create many blind spots, so be very careful when defending yourself. No one even knows how many years it will take to build a road in the Devil's Forest. The road is needed for more than just transporting salt. People will need reliable food, and eventually a fishing port will have to be built. This shows the road is vital, and since large carts can carry ship cargo along it, it should be made safe. To build a road, they must fight off monsters, cut down trees, and clear about 20 kilometers of land for it. Hiro wondered how much strength he would need to keep working without getting tired. There was no end in sight, and it was too dangerous. He admitted they were wrong very suddenly. They should not have had to go through the Devil's Forest. They only wanted the road to the sea. A safer road. Kumu thought he was saying something strange again, but Hibana was already used to it. Hiro said he would do something before winter. Only 3 months remain, and he promised he will definitely do everything. Hibana felt uneasy because she knew he was up to something. He's looking forward to it. At last, the soldiers reached the sea. Everyone lit up because there really was a sea here. The sun was already setting, and they had been walking a long time because of the crowd. They were relieved that they would not spend the night in the Devil's Forest. The soldiers suddenly shouted that they were seeing the sea for the first time and that it smelled of salt. The best soldiers act like young children. After they set up camp, everyone will be free. The soldiers chatted and were mainly interested in food, especially the fish in this sea. At last, they began setting up camp. They install everything fairly quickly. It's because they're excited about the sea. Takumu asked Hiro and Hibana to join him for a fishing trip. I don't want to eat canned food because the sea is nearby and you can eat something tasty. All 3 were already sitting on the cliff with their fishing rods. Hiro caught a fish with his fishing rod. The place was empty, and the fish were careless and easy to catch. She asked whether this fish could be eaten. The hero said it cannot be done unless the poison is removed. Takumu wouldn't mind eating that fish if its poison was very weak. Using simple baits, the fish bit. Takumu then turned to face the hero. He gave the throne to him. Not all of his subordinates have accepted this yet. Takumu was right. Everyone admires his strength. They never expected to have to obey the hero. There was nothing he could do about it. Soldiers do not respond to words and must be shown force. Hiro asked what he should do while he couldn't challenge Takuma to a duel. Suddenly, Takumu said it was a good idea. At this rate, he would never live to see a prosperous kingdom, and he stood no chance of defeating Takuma. Even if they try to collude, they'll be exposed immediately because he's already trained them. His proposal was that personal knights could fight in royal duels. This shows he can defeat Takuma. A personal knight's power is a king's power. Hibana immediately said she was weaker than Takumu. Takumu confirmed it and said he would train her. He would do it anyway. They need a hero who can endure anything. His own light must not be weak. Hibana should train with Takumo and surpass him. He asked her if she regretted it. She refused because she had no right to regret that they were so unequal in strength. Feeling fairly happy, she will certainly grow stronger. The answer was solid, but getting stronger would take time, and Takumu couldn't wait. The duel is in a week, and if she fails, Hiro will help using a weapon made by alchemy. Together they can defeat him, and he will be accepted as a strong king. Hiro accepted his offer happily. and Hibana had no objections. Then everything is settled, but he must say one more thing to test the hero. He said he would strengthen the kingdom with alchemy. Without proof that this girl could defeat him, he would not believe in his alchemy. He asked me to remember this carefully. He said it all correctly. Hiro was going to do it all and show him. The soldier came to report that the tents were up and they could start cooking dinner. Defeating Takuma feels like a miracle. He used to say that holding out against his brother for only 3 minutes would be enough, since they had no chance of winning and could only buy time. Training with her brother will not erase the strength gap between them this week. Hibana said he was feeling somewhat depressed, which is interesting. To an alchemist like him, everything is interesting. He looked for a way to surpass his brother, and for a weapon that would make up for this terrible difference. He was furious about it. At nightfall, the soldiers sat by the fire and cooked fish. They were to follow the plan. So tomorrow morning, they would clear the beach and start making a salt field. Hiro wrote down how to make the tool and told them to follow his instructions, because tomorrow he and his brother Takumu would be gone, leaving them alone. He is some distance away from his brother's soldiers. Hibana asked if he planned to use the pool. He replied that salt needed to be mined without magic, so people who do not use magic could mine it themselves. They returned to the beginning, and a lot of work was added. The hero still thought it was necessary. After all, her brother had said that if she didn't win, he wouldn't claim that alchemy could save the kingdom. If they don't have such a large power gap with other countries, they can do anything. At first, weapons were made for the weak. The ideal weapon is one anyone can use to kill anyone. In the past, people assumed that if a country was rich, someone would attack it, so it prepared powerful weapons. Start by weakening the enemy. Then Takumu, with his incredible strength and knights, delivers the final blow. This is his main tactic. Hibana is grateful to have a powerful weapon, but she wants to defeat him with her own strength. Hiro wanted her to outperform her brother. It doesn't have to be a duel. And after it, she will train for a few days or pass him. She vowed to him that she would become the strongest, even though she did not know how long it would take. It won't be worthy if it doesn't. She wants to be worthy of a hero. For a long moment, they stared at one another. Yuno turned away and said it was good she felt so confident. The atmosphere felt a bit strange, so Hibana asked what he had come up with. You wanted to build a road from the sea to the kingdom, but with only 3 months left, Hibana thought it impossible. Hiro knew he could, because he only says what he can do. A solid plan could wait. Time for that would come later, but first she had to make the weapon this week. That's not quite true. Tomorrow morning he'll finish the road plan, then start building it, and will think about its weapons during construction. In the morning he prepares for work. In the afternoon he builds a road and thinks about weapons, and in the evening he begins making a weapon prototype and trains Hibana. That's just him, and it's his strength. He comes up with a plan in his head, writes it down, and works through the details. They would return to the castle tomorrow and have to start work immediately, so he asked Hibana for help. After they go through the Devil's Forest again, he tells her his plan and thinks it will be good training. He always surprises her. They decided to give it their best effort. By midday the next day, they stood near the edge of the Devil's Forest. They reached their destination. They dumped all the paperwork on Agot, and now they'll start building the road. Hibana asked if they wanted to come in because they were at the forest entrance. They were having trouble cutting down the Devil's Forest, and if they couldn't get through it, they would have to go through here. He slammed his palm into the ground, and since it didn't want to go through the forest, it didn't have to. What he plans to build would be more accurately called a non-road. He was digging a tunnel. That was even crazier than building a road. That was not the case, so the hero asked her to come over. Alchemy is the manipulation of matter. Sand and earth work best, and the harder you dig, the deeper the hole gets, so he digs at an angle so the cart can move easily. And once they reach a certain depth, he begins digging horizontally to create a path to the sea. By digging a tunnel, they don't have to worry about trees or monsters, and during yesterday's hike he found there is no groundwater here. He did not know whether there were monsters underground here, but he would worry when they appeared. Even as she watched, Hibana couldn't believe he was creating tunnels with alchemy. Hiro told her to believe or trust, but he keeps doing it, and this time he will do more. Hibana worried the ceiling might collapse, but Hiro said the walls would be very hard to break because alchemy had compressed the earth. Far stronger than brick, it is waterproof and will not collapse. Once this road is built, people will be able to walk safely from the city to the sea and not only produce salt, but also fish. The kingdom's nearby lake has been overfished, making it almost impossible to catch fish, so fishing at sea would bring richer food and happier people. Seeing his smiling face, Hibana could hardly wait for the day. Noticing how much magic had been used, she knew she would have fainted long ago, and Hiro said he was born this way, but wanted her to know it was hard for him too. The tunnel must let 2 horse carts pass easily, so its width is 8 meters and its height is 3.5 meters. It needs a lot of magic power, and Hibana offered to help with anything he needed. Vinhero asked her to clear away the dirt and rocks. The ground can only be compacted so much, and we want to avoid piling up leftover soil and rocks. Strength work suited her and was just right. Hiro advised working without overexerting yourself so you are not exhausted before the evening workout. She refused, saying she would work as hard as she could. To get stronger, she does another workout. After agreeing, he only told her to be careful and thought he would have to take care of her if she suddenly became ill. After that, they began working on the song. Everything depended on his strength, and he wanted to know how long it would hold. While Hiro was digging the tunnel, Hibana was loading the remaining earth and stones into a cart and taking them away. A long time had passed, but they were still doing it. After a while, they grew tired. They decided to stop for the day. If they kept going, they would not have enough energy for the evening work. They had covered 600 meters of the 20-kilometer route, more than he expected. Even Hibana felt very tired. Because of her, he could focus entirely on building the tunnel, and he thanked her for her help. Something caught her attention here. Hauling soil all day left her very tired because the deeper they dug, the farther she had to carry the excess soil, and she thought it was a good idea workout for her muscles and endurance. At their current pace, they can finish in about a month, while the deadline is 3 months, which is very good. I had expected 2 months. They won't stop at merely digging a tunnel. She asked him what more he wanted to do. Start by checking and reinforcing the wall to prevent it from collapsing. After completing this, use a waterproof device, and if water appears, install a drain. This area will also need lighting. A device for circulating fresh air. Completing all this will take more than 2 months. Much needs to be done. He plans to create many excellent things, but she asked if all that was necessary. Hiro said they needed the road not just for carrying salt, but that the road itself would be useful and necessary. After that, he had something else. He noted she looked tired because she had training with her brother in the evening. She stood up abruptly and said she wasn't tired and still had plenty of strength, but her body was shaking, showing she was not okay. Hiro asked her to open her mouth and produced a small pill. Holding it to Hibana's mouth, he told her not to spit it out. He threw it into our mouths. The pill's taste made Hiban feel sick right away. Moments later, she lay on the ground, motionless as if dead. She asked what he was doing. It tasted worse than anything else in the world. She asked him not to laugh about it. After apologizing, Hiro asked how she felt and whether she was feeling better. She tried to jump and move. Her body felt unusually light, which surprised her, and she asked whether such pills really existed to remove fatigue. These were also made by Alchemy. The ingredients are very valuable. Taking too many pills will strain the body. They can't be used casually because war could break out, and he doesn't want to waste the supplies. The medicine can quickly restore soldiers to combat readiness, which will save them. Today is a special case. If he can't tell her from her brother, he won't be able to make a proper weapon, and if he's tired, he won't be able to train. He felt sorry because she had already decided to work until she dropped, and to take this medicine to recover quickly and go to training. She thanked him for the valuable medicine. Decide to go back. Before leaving, Hibana wanted to ask him one more thing. She asked him for one small favor. She asked to be his lover. She waited for him to answer her request. Hiro asked what she was saying. She told him right away that she had fallen in love with him. This led her to confess to him. She can't be his queen, but he can keep their relationship secret, and she wouldn't say that just to please a man. He asked whether she was telling the truth. At that meeting, Hibana fell in love with him when he stood up to 2 brothers. So she tells him this. She asked him how he would respond to this. He asked whether Hibana had ever dated anyone. No, she hadn't met anyone, but she believed they could handle it. People are animals, too, and you just have to trust your instincts. They held each other's gaze for a moment. The hero turned around and asked her to give him time to think. She said she would wait, because patience is one of a swordsman's main strengths. She then took the cart and left. Hiro wondered what had led her to confess so suddenly. For royal families, marriage is mainly a way to strengthen ties with other countries, and since few would want to marry into a poor nation like theirs, there are no problems. Hibana is strong, beautiful, and smart, and she's interesting to talk to. They need more time to get to know each other. The soldiers were training in the yard. Hibana and Hiro walked over and greeted everyone. They all had strange faces, but none of them seemed hated. Maybe they heard about their fight and are curious about Hibana's strength. They arrived at Takum. First, he wants to see Hibana's strength, so he will have her fight Harold. Tilting her head, she looked at Harold. He asked if she would not fight him. Takumu warned fighting him was dangerous because if he did not control his powers, he might kill someone by accident. After hearing that, Hibana decided to show him her power. Hiro wished her luck in the fight. Harold asked Takumu if he could really let himself go. He confirmed it because he roughly knows what she can do. His interest in her is gone. Were Hibana and Harold already standing in the arena? Hiro watched them and asked it of everyone else. Hibana asked about the rules. Harold suggested she use wooden swords and fight until the first blow. She accepted these terms. Hiro saw great strength and a herald. Confident he was among the squad's top 12, he believed that if the magical power smoothly enveloped his body, his physical abilities could improve. Takumu ordered them to get ready for battle. Once the fight began, both rushed forward. Hibana swung her sword, but Harold blocked it. She then started hitting him repeatedly. She moved quickly. Hibana circled, squeezing the herald. He stiffened slightly under her pressure. Spectators admired her footwork and speed, while Harold only defended himself. Spinning around Harold, she takes a solid stance to attack. Only one nuance remained. Harold is holding firm and deflecting attacks, so you need to land a blow to grab her. Harold timed it perfectly, the way he suddenly threw her sword into the air. Hibana still managed to defend against his blows. Harold is as fast as Hibana, and Hibana's tactics are exhausting. Harold suddenly began to strike her. He missed, and Hibana disappeared from his sight. Appearing above him, she flew to a spot behind his back. Harold was confused when he landed on the ground. They took a direct hit from Hibana. Harold fell down. He acknowledged her victory and called it strong. They thanked one another for the fight. Then Kumu will speak to them. He praised them for their fight. His observations showed Hibana had her own strength. She asked what that meant. He asked to borrow her sword. Taking her sword, he began to draw his own. He handed it to Hiro and asked him to hold it firmly in front of him. Taking it, he held it and asked what it was for. Takumu warned that he was on his way. He braced his leg and readied himself to lunge. A single swing sliced through his sword like butter. The hero's heart sank all the way to his feet. Takumu had praised this sword as very good, and his sword was indeed good, but now it is just trash. Hibana asked why he did that, and Takumu was checking their weapons before the fight. Had Hibana lost that battle, whether with wooden swords or real weapons, this would have happened. She asked how much longer he would underestimate her, and whether he really planned to win by taking her blow. He said he would win because he wouldn't say it if he couldn't. Hibana told him she didn't need his favors. Takumu told her to prove it by winning, and if she did, the next fight would be tough, only if she is able. She took her sword from Takumu. The hero asks if she was confident she could handle it. Confident, she expected to win. At first, she only wanted to test their strength, but now she wants to win. She seemed very angry. Brother acted provocatively, not realizing he was underestimating Kibata. Takumu and Hibana were standing in the arena. They announced their battle had begun and ended up dry. Instantly, in a flash, Hiro was wrong, expecting Takumu's brother to move first and Hibana to just defend. But Hibana did something different. Hibana was allowed to attack first. It was then easily dodged. Finish the fight with the single blow. Keeping the right distance and reading the opponent's tempo is the foundation of a swordsman. The victory came from skill, not speed or strength. From the start, there was no plan for the brother. It was just an overwhelming difference in strength. Takumu said she is physically fit. She puts in enough effort but relies on her talent, and he could not stand complacency. Focused only on himself, he misses the enemy. A lack of observation, understanding, and foresight makes truly strong people unbeatable. Once finished, he ordered the soldiers back to their posts. As they dispersed, Takumu approached the hero. He called Hibana a skilled swordswoman, but that isn't enough. She thinks there are only winners and losers. He says she thought losing to him was natural, did not really regret it, and was not interested in him. Thinking only of herself led to her defeat, a fatal flaw. Hibana has never found an opponent her own age, and the Golden Knights are too far away. She can't lock eyes with an opponent and strike without warning. To fix this, she must feel the sting of defeat. Victory is certain. This is the best way to see the enemy from the other side. Not only is he strong, he also guides people onto the right path. And it was good they were on the same side. The hero thanked him and said she would definitely become stronger. Takumu also had a favor to ask of Hiro. He asked him to make him a sword. If possible, use his broken sword for material. The hero's sword, made by alchemy, could cut it. For Takumu, this was an important ritual. Even though he used it that way, it doesn't bother him, and he wants to fight with it again if he can. By this ritual, he accepted alchemy and moved on. The hero agreed. To thank Hibana for training him, he will forge a fine sword. Normal metal has no history, so enchantments will have poor compatibility. But Takumi's brother used his sword in battle, so it should have a combat history and the enchantments should work well. He merely asked him to refrain from using the new sword against Hibana. Takumu had planned this precisely to test whether they could surpass him. He put his hands on the hero and walked away. Hibana still sat in the arena. The hero came up behind her. Hibana is lost. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at him. She suffered a crushing defeat. She had lost before, but never felt such disappointment. After hearing this, Hiro suggested she let go of this resentment. She'll definitely become stronger and stop being so clumsy. The hero believed in her. He suggested she go home during the fight, because he understood what she needed and would help her win. Hibana nodded and agreed with him. They arrived together at his workplace. Realizing the gap with Takumu again, she knew no amount of training would let her catch up in 1 week, and she needed hero-level strength now. The word now in her speech shows she is looking ahead. She didn't want his consolation, so he kept to himself. The two will defeat Takuma's brother. Hibana wasn't meant to win today, but finding the difference between them was enough. Hiro is correct, but he is much farther away than she expected. Despite being in that disadvantaged position and unable to move her arms or legs, she no longer feels confident in herself. He asked why she was so timid, and she said she would not be like that anymore. After she called him bad, he said nothing but nasty things. Hibana will catch up with him, but defeating him in a week is still impossible. Even with all the swords he made for her, she still could not stand up to him, and tried to decide what to do. Hiro said only one thing remained for them to do: upgrade all equipment except the sword. She asked what that meant. The sword's lightness, sharpness, durability, and destructive power are all about 4, with lightness and sharpness as its main traits. It cannot be made lighter, but its sharpness is sufficient. Her fighting style already combines durability and destructive power, so improving it further is pointless. He will design armor that enhances reflexes and dynamic vision. While in armor, reflexes and dynamic vision are active, but the body can only sustain them for 3 minutes. This will more than handle swordsmen in combat. She asked how he would make that armor. Then the hero took the responder doll. He said he would use electric power. Hibana was surprised to learn about electricity. She then asked what it was. Hiro wasn't sure he could explain it at all. I decided demonstrating it on her would be faster. She asked if it was indecent, and the hero immediately said it was not. He started thinking about what to do. He then decided to act, and Hibana found it plainly indecent. She told him not to be shy, saying he could do whatever he wanted. To show her, he shook her hand. An electric shock made her squeal loudly in surprise. He started laughing, and she asked why he was laughing. He laughed because she had just reacted in an unexpectedly sweet way. The hero explained that it was electricity, that the human body has nerves, and that electricity runs through them. Muscles move because of electrical signals. If you deliberately apply electricity, the muscles will contract involuntarily like this, and her hand rose on its own. Hibine didn't like his hands moving on their own and asked whether he really wanted to use such a tool. Manipulating the brain's electrical signals can enhance dynamic vision and speed transmission to the muscles, improving reaction times, and that's exactly what he intends the armor to do. Hibana agreed to it. She plans to use electricity in tomorrow's training, become familiar with the armor, and thoroughly study Prince Tukumu's movements. Enthusiastic again, she will have to wait because it will take about 2 days to make. She agreed to it. Then she asked why it was connected to obscenity. It stayed on her mind. People's nerves carry electrical signals differently, so you need to determine how much electricity is needed. Therefore, the electrical signal must contact the skin directly, because any barrier will reduce accuracy and prevent collecting precise data. Hibana understood everything and asked whether it would be possible to begin receiving data after she ate and bathed. I wanted to know why this happened. She said she needs to prepare and look her best before meeting her loved one. He said it was fine after eating because he wanted to meet someone. After promising to meet a woman who bakes delicious bread, he invited her to join him. She wanted to meet the person Hiro liked. He asked how she knew he liked this man. She said she could tell from his voice. Talking about it makes him look happier. Despite her full attention, she still didn't understand. The hero said you could even say he loved her. She plays a crucial role in saving the kingdom. Hiro waited for Hibana in the hall. She arrived and apologized for being late. In a hurry, she put on casual clothes. Hiro asked what was wrong, noticed it looked like her and that it worked, then asked what that smell was. Hibana used the perfume from the Principality of Kinar, today's special beast, and put it on. He asked if they were only going to have dinner and gather data. Hibana said no, fearing Hira might fail her today, but he refused right away. She branded him a coward. While they walked, she asked if the royal family lived on this floor and if they were going to meet a member. Surprised, she asked whether this was truly his bride. He asked what she was doing and told her to go into that room. He opened the door. They stepped into a room that looked like a library. Welcome to the royal room. This used to be her father's office, but she turned it into a room. Someone sat on the stairs, and she closed the book. She graded them. A little girl walked up to them. She asked a question. Hibana is a knight. Hibana looked at her and found her very cute. The hero introduced Hibana to her. The girl watched Hibana for a while. She was delighted. Then she grabbed her hands and said her brother had told her many things about her. This girl is the hero's younger sister, Nayuki Cartarosa, the second princess of the kingdom of Cartarosa. Asking why he hadn't introduced them earlier, she noted the woman rarely appeared in public, and this was their first meeting. It's all Miley's sister's fault. They keep Nayuki hidden on purpose, so he apologized. Hibana realized he was right. Bowing to Nayuki, Hibana Clairford said it was nice to meet her, and introduced herself as Prince Hiro's knight. Also pleased to meet him, she asked if she was her brother's friend. The bonnet asked whether she knew they were friends. Hiro said she rarely goes outside because her body is weak, so he describes the world to her. When he used to come for a book, he always told her about Hibana. Nayuki admitted she is weak, but she has always envied strong women. I've always admired her for that. Hibana envied him for having a sister like that. She's so cute, I wanted to hold her close. Someone suddenly asked her to stop that. Hearing the voice, Hibana looked up. They waited for them. That night was Rebecca, friend of Nayuki, Hiro, and Hibana. Nayuki said that with her here, everything was fine. Rebecca said only she can hug her. Hiro greeted Rebecca and thanked her for helping. Rebecca did not object because it was Princess Nayuki's order, but she would not forget the humiliation of being forced to wear servants' clothes. Hibana realized then that she had been the one who brought them food, even though they hadn't seen each other in a long time. Rebecca asked whether not knowing something made her a bad student. When Hibana got scared, she immediately said it was a joke. She greeted her because she had become Prince Hiro's knight. She said the hero was quite stubborn and refused on other nights. He had been waiting for her because of their promise. She was very pleased and thanked me. Hiro dismissed it as nothing special. Rebecca misses training with Master Heath. She then called him good in quotes, but she asked if he had become stronger. Hibana expected Rebecca to become an army commander, so it was surprising that she served someone. The obvious choice for a mistress would be Princess Nayuki, who is an amazing person. On hearing that, Rebecca chuckled softly. She said Princess Nayuki is everything to her and the greatest treasure of this kingdom. She will protect her, even if it costs her life. Hibana asked if she had always been like this. Hiro said they are not like Nayuki, and Nayuki only idolizes her. Approaching Tribeca, he said her love for Nayuki was obvious, so he would explain everything to Hibana himself. He said they were secret allies. Nayuki baked bread to convince her brothers. Rebecca, disguised as a servant, handed it to them. For now, he wants to keep them private, so he asks them for help. He decided to return to the main task they had called him here for because it was ready. Nayuki asked Rebecca to bring it. She brought a rag with something inside. This was the paste Hiro asked to make. Hiro took an item and split it in half. He said it was well done. When Hibana asked what it was, the hero told her it was a type of noodle. Hard and unappealing, it was dried-out canned food that had to be cooked before it could be eaten. It may seem simple, but boiled in hot water, the pasta becomes very tasty. They made it from wheat, sea salt given by their brother, water and eggs, mixed it into a dough, and ran it through a pasta machine their brother made with alchemy. The pasta must be dried in the sun so the surface sets and keeps its shape, and resting it indoors first evens the moisture and prevents cracking before sun and wind finish the drying. The paste keeps for 3 years, so when the harvest is good, make some and save it for a bad harvest. Hibana had tried many kinds of noodles in the Kienarduchi, but never one this tough. Rebecca had only ever seen one kind of canned food, dried bread, and she had never thought about dried noodles. When the hero asked Nayuki, she called him to eat and offered more than just dried food. She asked them to sit at the table because she had made a lot of food. They all sat down together at the table. Hibana offered to help, but they declined because they were her guests. Having finished her preparations, Nayuki told them to enjoy her noodles. The noodles looked delicious. Smirking, Rebecca said, "Try the pasta Princess Nayuki had worked so hard to prepare." Hiro began by adding some salt. Next, he twirled the paste onto his fork. He put it in his mouth and started to chew. The dish was delicious and much tastier than his. This pasta is very unusual. Mayuki's food is easy and pleasant to eat. When the hero cooked it, it was terrible. He never imagined salt could improve the taste so much. Nayuki said she had practiced a lot, and the hero was sure their subjects would like her food. After so many attempts, the dish finally came out delicious. Nayuki asked Hiro to taste the pasta and sauce first, and then offered over-the-top compliments. "I decided to pour the white sauce first." Hiro tried it and instantly knew what it was. It turned out to be potato sauce. It was made from mushroom soup with added puree and salt. With memories from another world, he is not surprised by a sauce made from onion soup puree. Nayuki was different because she created that sauce, and in a world where food is only cooked, she is a true culinary genius. Unable to wait, Hibana decided to try a different sauce. The flavor was sour. This sauce is vinegar-based. Hibana was surprised their kingdom had vinegar, and thought the paste and sour sauce went very well together. In fact, they accidentally made vinegar while cooking. Since vinegar was handy, she decided to make a sauce with vinegar, oil, salt, and dried meat. She also used this meat in soup and asked how they liked it. Hibana said it was perfect, and both options were absolutely delicious. These offer very rich flavors. Her work was excellent, so I asked to borrow her recipes. Nayuki agreed gladly and decided to share the recipes with everyone. Rebecca rushed to congratulate Nayuki. They will give people wheat and easy pasta recipes with delicious sauces. Nayuki's help is invaluable and will be needed again. Hiro then remembered she had said she accidentally made vinegar, and he asked if she had succeeded in making what she was trying to make. She replied that everything had worked out. "There's room for improvement, but it already tastes good." Hibana asked for a clear explanation of what had happened. Hiro asked Nayuki for something he has been trying to achieve for a long time. It will be a symbol of their developing country. Rebecca tried it too and was amazed, never expecting this to happen in their country. Hebane had become curious to try it because everyone kept talking about it non-stop. Nayuki asked Rebecca to bring what she'd prepared. Next, she brought a decanter of some kind. She began pouring the drink into wooden glasses. Everything was hissing and foaming. Hibana gave him a sniff. I realized it almost immediately. The hero urged her to try, saying she would definitely understand everything. Hiro realized he hadn't had a drink in a long time. He began to drink this liquid. Pleasant on the tongue and soothing in the throat, the bitterness fades and sweetness emerges with a strong wheat and hops flavor. It was absolutely delicious. Hibane could hardly believe it. This is L and it's very high quality. After developing a new variety of wheat, he could think of nothing but making alcohol. Not needed to save the kingdom, but needed to make people's lives richer and happier. A fitting symbol would be a product of the flavor industry, such as ale. She had already tried ale in the Principality of Kanar, but this was the first time it tasted so delicious. Regarding the taste, the hero learned from the respondent that the key factors are the quality of the wheat and Nayuki's talent. This is the taste of happiness, intended not for a simple life but for a rich, full life. Then he turned to Nayuki. At the Harvest Festival, he said he would announce that he intended to become king. He wanted this ale on him and asked her if she could arrange it all. Nayuki said she would find a way to handle this task. Rebecca resolved to do everything she could to help her. You can always rely on Nayuki. She's a little sister for a reason. The brothers see Nayuki as useless. She is too trusting for diplomacy or a marriage of convenience, and even if she is intelligent, she is clearly not suited to politics. Despite her magic, her skin is too sensitive to the sun. Exercise harms her body, so she won't be able to fight, and her kindness is weighing her down too. Nayuki can save their kingdom. She baked the bread the brothers liked. Next time they will tell them everything. They will change their minds about Nayuki. Training. Takumu and Hibana is crucial, but building a prosperous kingdom matters too. And when they and Brother Agui team up to plant wheat across the land, they will need Nayuki's recipes. Doing all this will keep their kingdom moving forward. After the meal, they began cleaning up. At lunchtime, the heroes decided it was time to start measuring. Hibana asked for another hour. He asked why, and she said the food was so delicious she overate and her belly swelled. Hiro was indifferent to it. She asked him to understand her. Hiro agreed, and immediately heard her begin training. He asked whether she was sweating. She hated sweating, so she carried a towel. It's already been almost an hour. Hibana began to undress, and after she finished, she said she was ready. Approaching the hero, she thanked him for waiting. Naked, she stood in front of him and asked if they could start now. Hiro looked at her and told her to stand there. He said he would try to do everything faster. Standing like that, she felt deeply ashamed. He started and touched her back, and she squealed. He asked if everything was okay, and she said his hands felt cold. But the hero said it felt more like the skin on her back was hot. At sea, the area was more open. An odd feeling came over him. Because she's so modest, shaking his head, he realized he couldn't do it because it would be rude to Hibana, and he forced himself to stop thinking about it and concentrate. He sent another electric shock through her body. She still hadn't gotten used to the electric shock. Hiro asked her to wait a little while. The result was impressive, and she develops her body perfectly. She was talented. Hibana was surprised he could understand all of it from the electric current. If they succeed now, the gap with Takumu's brother will be small, and the remaining work will be hers. Expect her to be stronger within a week. Her efforts alone, even with his weapon, cannot match Takumu's monstrous strength, but together they can handle it. Hibana said it would be a bit wasteful for her alone to use his weapons, and he replied that he and his brother Takumu plan to equip his army with them in the future. Apparently, he will do the same with men. It was good that he would make weapons for everyone, and he would also make a personal weapon for each person. If they are equipped with poor weapons, their army will be on par with the Golden Knights of the Duchy of Kanar. If they improve weapons, that will be their goal. If they can't win as easily as Takuma's brother without alchemy equipment, that would be bad. And Hiro's comment was cool and still makes sense. She apologized for complaining earlier and promised to do everything possible. That was a solid answer. She would do anything for Princess Nayuki's pasta. Delicious food gives a lot of energy. A little was still left. He asked her not to move. After a while, he grew very tired. After thanking him, she asked if he was very tired, and he thought that in a way he was. That's all for today, so she can go to her room. He intends to perfect the work himself. She said when he saw her naked, she became very worried and felt uneasy. With that, she left. Hiro started thinking about what she would order him to do. The next day, a tunnel near the Devil's Forest. The digging goes on with no end in sight. The distance is still short, but it will be harder further on, Hiro said. And drainage and ventilation equipment must be prepared along the way. He said it was time for them to have lunch. The food looked delicious. Nayuki made pasta for lunch. She said to season the sauce so the snack is easy to eat on the street and won't take up much space. Then wrap the minced meat in the cooked noodles. Add a little salt to the meat and shape it into small cutlets. Princess Nayuki is passionate about learning new things. Hibana tried it and found it delicious. This salty taste feels like heaven to a tired body. Work on the tunnel only began yesterday. Since early morning, they've only been digging this tunnel. There's nothing to be done. If they have important things to do during the day, he will meet Prince Agatha and Hibana will train with Takumu. From today on, only she and Prince Takumu would train, and she decided she had to show the soldiers how to get stronger. Hiro realized he'd be busy today and couldn't watch their training. He wants her to describe exactly how she felt after the workout. He handed Hibana a suit. This is the same suit. He said it would take at least 2 days. All this happened because she said she would get used to him in a day, and she also wants to clearly see her brother's movements. She reached up and took his face in her hands. He said if you look closely, you can see circles under his eyes. She asked if he had slept, and Hiro said he had, but only for 5 minutes. Hibana was grateful he had done all this for her. She said they couldn't abandon the tunnel at this stage because it would fall apart. Everything was right, so they couldn't leave it like this. And if they didn't work hard today, they wouldn't finish on time. Only magic can do this, and mana recovery takes the same amount of time, so nothing should fall apart here in 2 days. Everything looks strong, but next to Hibana, it isn't. The sooner he finishes, the faster Hibana will grow stronger. It's okay that he missed 1 night of sleep. Thanking him, she promised to wear it very carefully. The hero told her not to be shy and encouraged her to tell him how she felt. She is still inexperienced and has many weak points, so he will handle more for now. She will test the suit and find its weak points. He will improve it, and she will become much stronger as their life improves too. If that's the case, she won't hold back. Hiro sat in the castle in front of Agatha. His arrival was welcome, and Agatha asked to show him the materials first. They will use the fields this year. To enable their people to grow wheat, they must first show the result, because the risk is to them, not to the people. Right now, they have 2 types of fields, privately owned and publicly owned. Night workers cultivate the state fields, are not professionals, receive only a few hours of training, and otherwise spend their time working the fields or doing other farm tasks. Soldiers are usually second or third sons, or, very rarely, people from another country. They contribute to the kingdom's overall harvest, receive a salary in return, and retire when they grow old. Thanks to the brothers' development plan, harvests are plentiful. Even after paying wages, he still makes a profit. Landless people can afford adequate food and hope to own a field someday. My brother invented this system, and both the people and the kingdom are in a strong position. It is a very good domestic policy. No matter how often people say wheat will not grow in the fields, without an example, no one will be convinced. They've already tried to grow wheat several times and it never worked. If he brings up growing wheat again, people will get scared and be unable to act. First, show them a successful result. Simply trying is not enough because a poor harvest will cause an immediate widespread famine. Using state fields and night laborers would be a completely different story. Even in the unlikely event of failure, they could simply pay the night workers and would not starve. Because Hiro prepared the salt, it can be used when needed. Agatha doubts wheat will grow and is considering other options. Believing in his abilities makes him a bit different, and his job is to prepare for everything. With no objections to the plan, Hiro wants to continue the discussion. Agatha wanted to say the same, but there was one problem. The soldiers will not accept this. They came to ask permission to plant sweet potatoes as planned. They did not want to regret not planting sweet potatoes. Agatha told them they would be paid a salary even if nothing grew. It was a pity because they did not listen to her. They support each other to survive in this harsh world. Their loyalty to their country and friends runs deep. They do not worry about money if they fail, but believe that if they do not plant sweet potatoes, someone will starve. That's admirable and makes you proud of them, but it would be a shame if they limited themselves to only sweet potatoes this year. Begin by growing wheat in the state field to get good results and ensure everyone has grain saved for the next year. And plan wheat cultivation across the kingdom for the following year. If it doesn't work out this year, they'll be a full year late. The only downside is the yield difference, since improved wheat produces far more than sweet potatoes. Right now, it is unsafe to rely only on sweet potatoes. If you keep growing them on the same land, yields will fall as the soil becomes infertile. More alarming is infection among sweet potatoes. If they become sick, it will certainly cause widespread famine. There is no guarantee this will not happen. Hiro wants them to have at least 2 staple foods. Wheat is one of the kingdom's keys to survival. Losing a year of harvest would seriously harm the kingdom's economy. Ordering the knights to work would be wrong, even though they could. This kingdom exists only because the people love it, and if its foundation is broken, the built-up discontent will immediately erupt. If you force them to plant wheat and it grows, you can convince the people, but it's quite risky. The people who live here are the kingdom's only true treasure and must never be lost. This wheat reaches harvest in 3 months. The variety is cold hardy, but will not survive the full winter. Plant it within 3 weeks before it is too late. He wants everyone to work because he believes everyone can enrich the kingdom. Now we turn to Brother Agatha. He was asked to convince them himself. 5 years ago, the hero ran with a sword and screamed at a tree. When he hit the tree, he was only knocked back. Workers rushed over and told him to rest, since just swinging a sword would not make him stronger. The hero thought he'd like to wake up in an open field with seeds, because he was hungry and needed money. Someone then handed him some boiled potatoes. The boy asked whether he was resting and offered him a treat from his mother. He urged the other workers to try again, telling them they were princes too. The hero thanked him for the treat and the man returned to work. From above, Hiro and Agatha watched the field. I finished work early today. Agatha wanted to know why he hadn't looked into it more. Not wanting to disturb their work, he decided to wait until they finished. Agatha could call them to the castle, but he doesn't want to go to the outpost. You need to show you're sincere, he said. Brother Agatha told an excellent story, but something seemed off. Strangely, Agatha couldn't convince them, and realized he had to try to convince them himself. The man rang the bell and said they were finished and had done a good job. Enro approached and greeted them. The guy had warned him not to come alone, and the hero knew he shouldn't. He wants to talk to the hero because some rumors are going around. He asked him for more new tools, since the time when they could do without them had passed, and they would be grateful to him. Hiro sided with them because their ideas were more practical than the old ones. Most of the mined iron had to be used for armor. It was unfortunate there was no mine. If he did not use the handle he was holding, he would be limited to using only the tip of the blade. The man was also thinking about when they could plant sweet potatoes. Hiro felt no need for adventure, so he went ahead and grew wheat. He then said they would grow wheat. They have no alternatives. The workers immediately began whispering about it. They could hardly believe this was their heroic prince, and they kept thinking about it. Hiro, too, asked them to listen and wants them to consider growing green onions and wheat. He told them to stop mumbling and look more closely at the wheat he had brought. With a special fertilizer, it may germinate this time. Wheat is far more reliable than sweet potato. The chance of failure is very low. If all goes as planned, it will produce a crop by winter. The workers considered it. The guy said she's small, there will be nothing to eat, and they'll feed like mosquitoes. Even here the prince lies, perhaps eternal, and if everything goes according to plan, he asked whether he knew what happens when hunger comes. Winter might come very early this year, and if he avoided odd behavior, they would get through it peacefully. So he wondered why he was doing unnecessary things. Simon isn't a bad guy, but he doesn't think growing sweet potatoes is the only right way out. And he may be a fool. Yet unlike others, he can be convinced otherwise. He is one of the people he can trust, and talking to anyone else could lead to unpleasant consequences. Hiro could explain why he wanted to grow wheat. This is meant to enrich the country. When told that the same idea still motivated him, he said that sweet potatoes could no longer be used. Although this wheat yields more than sweet potato, it is useless in its present form, and the country may fall into decline. The hero said he was terribly afraid of it. Bowing, he asked them to trust him. Hiro's trick surprised them. His request can't be what they need right now. He is negotiating now, even though he doesn't want to. His wishes and help made it clear that he considered them like-minded people. He refuses to deceive his feelings because they are his friends. Simon told him to stop and act like an adult. His father and grandfather had also grown wheat, but they knew it was hopeless. Hiro promised that such failures would not happen again. Simon thought for a moment, then decided to believe him since he had said it himself. They will grow wheat and tell him to lift his head because he looks bad otherwise, and no one here is going to beat him. He thanked him for that. Simon would have been disgusted by this long ago. Suddenly a complaint came from behind. Workers refused to grow wheat because the prince clearly knew nothing about farming. The royal family is not starving, which is why he says so. They do not care what happens to them, and refuse to let anyone use their fields. The hero definitely cannot convince them. If he does not do this, he will lose the chance to move forward. Simon suddenly shouted for everyone to listen to him. I'm not going to claim that Hiro doesn't understand farming or the hardships of ordinary people. Everyone nearby covered their ears because Simon's voice was so loud. He reminded them who had shared knowledge with them during the crop failure, and who made it possible to change the situation then. Lacking the strength of Takumu's brother and the intelligence of Agatha's brother, he offered nothing useful to the country. Because Hiro did not know about people's suffering, he was not obliged to share their hardships, but they sweated together, gritted their teeth, and wanted to make this country a better place. When you heard their complaints and offered a small improvement, they all hung their heads, Simon said, and asked them to look at the iron hoses they had. The hero calls himself helpless and wastes time instead of acting. He's just trying to ignore that he's helpless. The country had no good doctors, and the hero prince was the only one who treated them. Simon spent 3 days and nights tirelessly caring for his mother when she fell ill, and thanks to him, she is alive and well. So to say he does not care about what happens to people is completely wrong. That was just complacency in his thinking, because it was what he could do. Simon believed him because he was a heroic prince, and they tried together and helped each other. He will follow Takumu if Takumu says everything is fine and wheat is better than potatoes. Then they must trust him alone. Everyone nearby stood in silence, lost in thought. Hiro realized he had to speak up. Words failed him. He didn't know what to say. Overwhelmed by his emotions, he lost control. He had never felt anything like this before. The workers came up to him. They apologized for everything they had said. Even with full understanding, growing wheat remained unreliable. 5 years ago, a man's younger brother died of hunger, and the man himself was on the verge of death. He remembered it the whole time. They were simply afraid and considered it too unreliable. They blamed the hero prince for his good deeds and paid them no attention. Hiro gave them a reassuring smile and said he understood their fear and would never let them down. The workers were pleased and decided to plant wheat. Hiro then said he had brought something. He brought fresh bread made from the harvested potatoes. It tasted very good. And if they plant wheat, they will have plenty of bread. If you can see what they really feel despite all the problems, everything is fine. Vowing not to betray their earlier expectations and trust, he will take double and triple precautions and will try even harder this time. Now it walks down the corridor with Agatha. Then he said he did well. Hiro told Agatha he would have convinced everyone himself if it had been him. In the end, Hiro convinced them solely by his eloquence, and it would have been better if he had been beaten. First, if this opportunity is used wisely, Simon's loyalty, as an important resident, will only grow. If that happens, the rest of the residents will also strongly back Hiro, and he will become king. It sounded selfish and you didn't like it, but politics includes that too. Second, this is extremely important. Agatha wanted to say he was afraid of something in the hero. Hiro asked again whether Agatha was truly afraid of him. He confirmed his statement. Hiro said he was happy with his work and had been helping many people for a long time. From a national perspective, these are minor matters. However, when combined, it becomes a powerful force. It is the people's trust. People trust what he says and follow him. Trust is not earned in a day. It is an unshakable treasure and the most powerful weapon. If the hero becomes king, he should remember clearly that the complacency he spoke of has become trust. With it in his hands, this country can change. None of his efforts so far have been in vain. It was not in vain. Probably all this time, Hiro had wanted those exact words said to him. Agatha did all this to find out what weapon he had before he became king. Alchemy is only a tool, so to change the country, he must think more broadly. He was scared by the trust Hiro could win, and Agatha told him never to forget it. If he forgets, he will refuse to forgive him and will take over this country. Brother Agatha noticed him now that Hiro owes him. Both want to be themselves without feeling ashamed of anything. To earn the trust of these people, he will stay true to himself. If he loves the country, he will certainly be able to change it. In the field, the hero moved among the workers, handing out leaflets that left them confused about what was written on them. The next day, they began planting wheat across all the fields, and he supervised the sowing to ensure proper technique and effective soil fertilization. He is leading the process this year. Next year, villagers will be trained to replace him. One explanation will not be enough, so he hands out instructions. Simon rang the bell and announced that the day's work was done. Everyone worked hard, and some planned to pray for success. Hiro said cold weather spoils wheat, but it can still grow well in cool conditions. The workers were surprised that Hiro understood it all. Simon asked whether he did not need to return to the castle. Hiro admitted he now leads a rather hectic life. However, a sense of completion has emerged. The tunnel is being built little by little, and the wheat crops are growing. Before winter arrives, beautiful ears of grain will surely appear in the fields. Everyone was glad they could grow plenty of tasty wheat. When the wheat sprouts and the whole country is filled with smiles, the hero couldn't wait for that day. By dinner time, Hiro was still sitting in his office. Hibana knocked on his door and walked into his office. She collapsed to the floor before she could enter. Hiro sprang up and asked if she was okay. Apparently, she fainted from exhaustion and was unconscious for a while. Hibana took another severe beating. This time she managed to hook Takuma. Hiro started applying an ointment that would make her feel better right away. In pain, she asked them to be gentler. Hiro finished treating her back and told her to apply it to the front herself. She asked if the front needed to be smeared too, and he said that had to wait until after the wedding. A member of the royal family made an unexpected announcement, and she had been looking forward to it. Since she hooked him, they may still have a chance to win. During the acceleration, she could strike him, pouring the power of her equipment into the blow. That was already good, and Hiro asked if she had noticed anything else interesting, but she replied only that Takumu had perfect coordination. The first time facing him, she couldn't move her arms or legs, but today she can. And on the third day of training, she finally landed one blow. So if that progress continues, she will be able to defeat him completely in the next 3 days. The signs looked good, and Hiro anticipated her victory. He then recalled that she had said 8 of the Golden Knights could not defeat her, and he asked about the other 4. She believed their strength nearly matched hers. The knights had the same number of holy swords, but 8 were exceptional. She was certain he could win too if he had a sword. The Golden Knights have ranks too, and he asked how she would rate Takuma against the other knights. Even if his opponents had holy swords, he could have defeated 5 of them, but not the remaining 3, and those known as the 3 holy swords are special. Maybe if Brother Takumu had Hiro's magic sword, he could defeat the 3 sacred swords. Hibana said he might have won or he might have lost. Until today, Hiro knew his brother was strong, but did not know if that was true worldwide. And now he is sure his mighty strength matches the Golden Knights. Including Takuma in their plan will raise their chances of success. The country's main problem is that neighboring countries will invade once they learn about its wealth. In those situations, the best way to solve the problem is to avoid using force. Far more people favored victory at any cost than those who thought the war unnecessary. Force will be used only as a last resort, since peaceful measures exist and it's better to keep an ace up your sleeve. If Takumu could match the 3 holy swords in strength and Hibana could surpass him, then 2 people here might equal the 3 holy swords and possibly defeat the Golden Knight Order. Hibana said it was arrogant to think the 2 of them could defeat the Golden Knights. They needed at least 1 more person. It will be a hero, Hibana said. The hero refused because even with a first-class sword he would not be the best. Hibana knew this, so his fighting style would put him on par with them, and that would be enough. He could have been an option, but that wasn't necessary, Hiro said. Also, we should test the combat effectiveness of alchemical silver. He then asked her not to change clothes in his room. She said there was nothing wrong with it, since they would most likely live together in the future. She was willful, but because she had no questions about the equipment, he told her not to waste time and asked what happened. Hibana asked for one thing. She wants him to name her sword. The gift is from the man she trusts with her life, and calling it just a magic sword feels wrong. He made this sword especially for her and asked whether he could name it himself. That was exactly the name Hibana wanted him to use. When he asked why, she said it was sentimentality. He still didn't understand it, but if it makes her happy, he'll definitely come up with it. He turned to Hibana. Hibana was looking at her sword when something clicked inside her. Then he said Hanabi. The sword will be named Hanabi. He explained that Hanabi means sparkling fire flowers that bloom in the sky and are very beautiful. Hibana sparkles when she uses her sword, so he thought the name was fitting. Hearing the explanation, she looked at her sword. Fiery colors blooming across the sky looked very romantic, and she wanted to see them. The hero said it was possible. Once she beats Takuma in a duel, they will celebrate that evening and set off fireworks. If she loses, nothing will happen and they will work on their mistakes. Hibana insisted she would never lose, and fighting without knowing the meaning of the sword's name seemed very sad. With only 3 days until the fight, it would be foolish to plan such a complex fireworks display now. Even so, he can handle it, and he wants Hibana to admire him. Watching the fireworks, she is far more beautiful than the display. Suddenly, she said there was no time to rest and began doing push-ups. Hiro asked her should not overdo it. The day Hibana and Takumu duel has arrived. Prince Hiro arrived and the others followed. Princess Nayuki was there, and some people were seeing her for the first time. Nayuki glanced at them and winked. The soldiers were immediately embarrassed by this. Together, they shouted her name, and Rebecca suddenly looked at them. In her element, she felt completely at ease. Takumu waited in the arena as Hiro and Hibana climbed onto it too. Hiro recalls the first fight between Hibana and Takumu. Today they have equal chances of winning. Agata will witness the fight between Takumu and Hiro. For this duel, Hibana, the hero's knight, will fight instead. A deadly duel with real swords, victory goes to whoever lands a single sword blow. The loser gives up the right to the throne, and he, the second prince of the kingdom of Agatha, has already done so. The winner becomes the next king automatically, and he then asked if anyone objected. Hiro didn't care. Takumu also had no objections. He then entrusted his fate to his sword, and the hero entrusted his fate to the sword that was his knight. With the preparations complete, he asked his brother if he was ready. He said to wait a moment. He asked the hero and his knight to win this duel. This surprised everyone, because Takumu rarely wants to lose. It sounded like they had agreed on this beforehand, so one of them told Kumu he wasn't giving up. He wanted him to prove his beliefs in combat, even if he could not beat him. The hero's views will become insignificant. Then it would be better for them to disappear for his sake and for the good of the country. He himself will then become the country's king. The hero gave a simple nod in response. If he surpasses Takuma, Takuma will accept his beliefs as true and give him the subordinates he forged himself. He told me to look very carefully. After all, he will fight with everything he has and with complete seriousness. When someone surpasses him, he will acknowledge the other as a hero. Hearing this, the rest of the soldiers shouted together and cheered for Commander Takuma. Everyone who follows Takumu wants to see his power. They trust Takuma and are glad they will see him fight at full strength. He wants to see a power greater than his. Hiro watched Hibana. Turning to Takumu, he said he had heard everything Takumu said, and now all that remained was for Takumu to win. Hiro called Hibana, but she didn't pick up. He grabbed her shoulder, which frightened her greatly. With a smile, he asked if she felt afraid. She admitted she had been afraid, but the fright had wiped her fear away, and now everything was normal. Pretending to be strong gives her confidence. Hibana has matured a lot. Hyrule ordered her to go and come back victorious. She nodded in return and walked toward the arena. Takumu asked her to prove she was superior. Alone, she still could not have resisted him, and even though she had grown stronger, she was no match. With the hero, they can hold on to victory. After those words, they both took a stance. Agatha announced the start of the duel. Hibana lunged forward to attack. She applied the acceleration function. This function stimulates the brain and the body's internal current and sharpens dynamic vision and reflexes. She attacks first, and Takumu is wide open. Failure now means she will be killed. Hibana struck quickly, but Takumu still dodged. Before, she could only hook her brother. Now she notices every move he makes. The hero is not the only one watching this. The others are watching too. Hibana looks cool to Nayuki, and Takumu, after stepping back, keeps dodging. Her attacks became increasingly forceful. Takumu stepped up behind her and assumed a stance. The sword stayed pointed at her until she turned around, but he barely managed to block the blow. She blocked the attack with her sword. She stopped him with only the hilt of her sword. Takumu already believed they could end it here. After landing on the edge of the arena, Hibana disappeared from Takumu's sight. She moved immediately into a blind spot. An attack from there would be out of sight. Behind him, she already thought she could touch him. She boldly chose to stab him in the back. Suddenly, Takumu slipped away from beneath the sword's strike. It turned out he was right behind Hibana, although she was out of sight. From her position, he predicted the trajectory. The sword was already closing in on Hibana. Hiro shouted at Hibana to react faster. Trying to block the blow, she cut the sword in half. The sword's tip skimmed past Aku's face, and everyone around was stunned. He grinned, then a shot struck him square in the chest. Takumu collapsed to the ground, blood gushing out. The winner was Hibana Clifford. Hiro rushed to the arena to see his brother. Walking up to him, he pulled out a flask and poured its contents onto Takumu's wound. Instantly, he was healed and the wound closed before our eyes. Hiro asked if he was all right. The healed wound seemed magical when he saw it. The wounds are closed on the surface, but he still needs a few days' rest, and they will fully heal in 3 days. In this battle, Hibana's sword and armor were badly worn. They proved to be very reliable. He stood up and admitted that he had lost badly. Expecting what would happen if a magic sword struck a normal blade, he tried to avoid contact in the duel, but Hibana's counterattack surpassed all his expectations. As soon as he parried her blow, the battle's outcome was already decided. He faced the audience, who had seen everything. He wondered if he looked like an idiot for making it easier for his opponent to win. With the sword and equipment Hiro made, Hibana evened the odds in the fight. Trust in this power lets you grant authority to the hero. Takumu asked him to make them stronger with his power because they would use that power for good on his behalf. Hiro stood up and vowed to do it. He promised Takumu and his fighters that he would use these powers to revive the country. He asks them to use his knowledge to become stronger than they were. The crowd roared with delight at his words. Takumu suggested they congratulate Hiro on becoming the next king. There would be no reward, but they should still celebrate a little. The hero noticed Hibana was still sitting. You decided to approach her. He sat down beside her and thanked her for the victory. It seemed odd that she was still alive. By then, she had already thought she would die, and she was lucky to have prevented that blow. Hiro insisted it wasn't luck and that luck hadn't saved her. Strength returned to her. People expect everything from the Night Hero. She was glad to hear that. People started setting up tables. Intakumu announced a feast and let them eat as much as they wanted. The maids carried in crates of beer and plates piled high with boiled potatoes. The more they ate, the less appetite they all had. The event had been long awaited. I did not expect the potatoes to be so tasteless. The hero even wishes they had salt. That should have been decided before planting potatoes, but they needed both wheat and potatoes. Nayuki and Rebecca ran over to them. Both congratulated Hibana on her victory. Despite winning, she feels no joy. If she had an ordinary sword, she would certainly have lost. That may be true, but they will certainly win next time under the same conditions. Nayuki said Hibana fought very well, and she thanked him for the compliment. By then, all the potatoes were gone. It wasn't tasty, but I was still sad when it ended. That was odd because Hiro asked to cook more. Nayuki told them not to worry, and Rebecca allowed them to bring something in. In fact, half of the potatoes went toward preparations for Takumu's victory celebration. Nayuki hoped they would like everything. Opening the lid, Hiro was startled. I actually saw real croquettes inside. She cooked them herself because this was the dish Hiro had told her about earlier. Takumu stepped up to the table, noticing how delicious it looked and smelled. Agatha had never seen anything like it before, especially something made from potatoes. Hiro recommended eating it with your hands. Holding the croquette in a napkin, he bit off a piece. They found it delicious. Oil ran out and the edges crunched. Takumu asked whether Nayuki had made this delicious treat. Takumu's praise made her happy. Rebecca was glad, too, to see how happy Nayuki was. These potato croquettes came out great. While the housewives salted the goat meat, some fat was left over, which she kept and used after adding a little salt. She ground the potatoes thoroughly with salt, meat, and milk until they were soft and crumbly, then used flour and eggs, dried the bread, and made breadcrumbs. Making a dish this delicious from second-rate ingredients is hard, but people will be glad to hear about it. Using an iron pan and plenty of oil, she fried her food, but iron pans were scarce in the city, and to get enough fat, she had to crush a lot of goat meat. She admitted this is a good method even without frying. Rebecca immediately pulled Nayuki close and said that no king should make a princess sad. He wrote at once that it was quite easy to make oil from plants, but the situation with iron was more complicated. This country has no mines, so it suffers a severe iron shortage. However, from now on it will certainly be enriched. Preparing for war will require a lot of iron. Importing it from neighboring countries is easy, but if buying large quantities of iron meets resistance, they risk coming under pressure from other countries that will regard them as hostile. If war broke out, his first move would be to secretly gather a lot of iron, and while he was thinking that, Nayuki asked him to stop worrying. Apologizing, he explained it wasn't because of the dish, but because of the iron requirement. He promised they would receive it soon. Iron pots and knives will finally appear in people's homes. The heroes are planning something that seems impossible. Today, the hero became king, so Agatha asked him not to upset either the new king or Takuma. In 1909, glasses clinking, he promised Agatha and they resumed their feast. Still, Nayuki surprised everyone by cooking such a complex dish. She combines solid knowledge with the ability to express it clearly. You can tell right away that she is a bookworm. She does her best to help them, and Hiro asked whether she should stay out of the country's political issues. In 1913, Agatha immediately said she was against it. Hiro understood him because he also opposed drawing public attention to her. Not wanting to use his sister for her own sake, he wondered if it was right to limit her to only cooking. In 1915, Nayuki herself ran up to them. She said she'd already talked enough and felt pretty tired, so she decided to return to her place. Suddenly, she stepped back and landed directly on the glass on the floor. She lost her footing on it. Hiro and Agatha immediately reached for her with their hands. At the same time, they caught her and stopped her fall. They exchanged surprised looks. Then everyone burst into laughter. Rebecca hurried over and asked if she was all right, but the brothers had already caught her. It felt strange, even though they hadn't been on good terms before. We had a great time together, Hiro agreed. Even though Nayuki had been their go-between before, they rarely saw each other. Nayuki pouted and said their relationship was too bad, and she always tried to get along with both of them so they could be closer. He apologized because she always had to be the bridge between them. Agatha said he was returning to the castle because he still had work to do. Hiro asked both Agatha and Nayuki to wait a little longer so he could show them something interesting. They grew curious about what he had come up with. In the arena, the hero stood and called out to the crowd. He announced he had prepared something to honor today's battle between Hibana and Takumu. He asked them to face the flag. Backstage, he grabbed the chain and ran an electric current through it. Backstage cannons suddenly loaded and fired into the sky. Shells flew across the dark sky. They went off in a large, beautiful fireworks display. Everyone saw it, from those at the feast to the simple peasants. Fireworks could be seen far beyond the kingdom's borders. The fiery flower Hibana mentioned blooms in the sky like fireworks. 1942 was very beautiful. People stood in awe as the sky started to glow. Takumu was also surprised to realize he had done it. In 1945, Agatha had never seen anything like it. Nayuki wants to see it again. The guards were still stunned by the fireworks. A warm, pleasant atmosphere filled the air. If people hadn't liked the fireworks, it would have been a waste. But now it didn't matter because everyone was clearly happy. Hibana approached Hiro and said the fireworks were breathtaking and she would never forget them. Hiro admitted it was hard to make, so he's glad everyone liked it. The Hibana sword took its name from something very beautiful. The owner of this sword is as beautiful as the fireworks. She felt very happy about it. She felt unworthy of that name for now. She will keep trying until he shows her an even more beautiful fireworks display. The hero will be eager for this. Hibana remembered he had said that if he secured the wheat, he would hold a harvest festival and announce his coronation there. For the first time in this land, a feast like this will be held. Bread, Ale and seafood will be laid out in rows on the tables. The holiday will be a big success with many fireworks. The celebration will delight everyone. It sounds overly sweet, but Hiro had no choice. By the festival, they will have plenty of millet. A tunnel to the sea will be dug so they can get salt and seafood. They will become much wealthier. When winter arrives, there will be plenty of food, and they can save the rest for later. This is the future he wants to give them all. Everything sounded really cool. He believes mere existence is not enough. Happiness is real, and he wants to share that with the people at the Harvest Festival. He found a shared goal for them and will pursue it no matter what. Only through diligence can he make people happy. The fireworks were beautiful, and Hibana wondered whether their round shape and fiery color were produced by chemistry. Hiro said it was just chemistry, nothing more, and that a large ring determined the shape by holding small powder balls while igniting certain metals produced a fiery color. After staging a huge fireworks display, he plans to go even bigger for the Harvest Festival. Surviving the winter is still possible, but food shortages have kept the Harvest Festival from being held for 20 years. Hibana said it would be okay, and that she would try her best if she could enjoy his fireworks again. Hiro asked if she was still full, and she replied not at all. She was always hungry and loved Princess Nayuki's croquettes. He asked her what she thought of dessert. She brightened as soon as she heard about dessert. There was nothing but weeds everywhere. In 1978, it was an experimental farm. Hibana wondered what she could make from wheat. In 1980, he replied that it was about more than just wheat. In 1981, he asked her to come to the door. From afar, she could see large glass buildings. In 1983, they looked strange, but going inside is even more surprising. In 1984, they went inside and saw large fruits. The fruit was called melon. The scent was so sweet it made your head spin. This fruit comes from the Far East and is hard to find here, even though melons are fairly inexpensive. In 1988, he obtained their seeds in a unique way. She asked which other method would be used. It sounded very suspicious. In 1990, she breathed in and her mouth watered from the scent alone. The fruits must be expensive because it was the first time in her life she'd smelled anything so sweet. Her stomach began to rumble. They have no choice. And in their country, sweets are not something people can enjoy regularly. She wanted to try it right away and asked if it could be done. Hiro said she could pick anyone, so she chose the biggest one. Then I noticed this field had no land, yet you could still grow fruit here. He wrote to explain that it was called hydroponics. Back then, cultivation relied on water and fertilizers, and in farming crops could only be grown on fertile soil, so she believed there were no other options. When she asked why they could not be seen from the outside, he said it was only a precaution. Hydroponic equipment seemed too complicated to make, so people might say he did it with alchemy. The hero sometimes retreats into himself. Before he started growing them, he saw it as a way to attract foreign capital and to use them as gifts for important occasions. Hibana was happy that Hiro had let her try something so delicious, and she would tell no one. In 2003, she picked the sweetest-looking one. Here it is, the Night Sixth Sense. After smelling it, she said it smelled very good and asked whether Hiro would be there too. Suddenly, he asked whether one was enough for two. He recommended eating it all. She agreed to it gladly. The hero took a knife and first cut the melon in half. After removing the seeds, I split them into 4 parts. The melon could now be eaten without any problems. Once cut, the melon gave off an even sweeter scent. Hiro told her to take the piece in her hands and bite down on it. She picked one up and got ready to take a bite. At last, she bit into the melon. It immediately howled at the taste. Rich and sweet, it was so juicy that every bite released sweet juice. It felt soft in my mouth and seemed to melt. Meanwhile, the outer side remained solid. Hiro warned not to eat it because it's the peel. Even after some time has passed, much of it still remains. They kept eating until they finished the melon. In 2022, they finally ate it all. In 2023, it was incredibly delicious, and she described it as a true fruit of paradise. She said she had never been more glad to have followed him, and it hurt a little to hear. She wants others to try this delicious treat too, but Hiro would feel uneasy if people found out about them. He considered using the IO as a reward, giving it to someone who achieved greatness in war or in cultivating the land, as if that would motivate them. Personally, Hibana would be ready to kill for this melon, and the hero asked her not to joke like that. She really found it very tasty, and it was the first time she had tried anything like it in her life. Today, she saw the most beautiful thing in a person's life and tasted the most delicious thing. You figured it wouldn't hurt and decided to give it to her as a reward. Then she must work hard to earn that reward. Then a faint scent reached her from afar. Pointing at the building, she asked about the smell. The hero replied that something special was there. He opened the door and found many barrels inside. This is the perfect time to open it and taste what's inside. The scent was pleasant, much like alcohol. It was a cellar filled with melancholy. Hibano had grown so many melons he could not eat them all himself, and the leftovers could not all be used as fertilizer, so he decided to try making a melon tincture. But even though it was delicious, he could not show it to people, and he was surprised he had once wanted to throw away all that goodness. Of course she understood everything, but it was still a shame. She liked this melon far too much. The tincture can be stored in the cellar each year, and when he is sure of its taste, he can finally present it to the people. Hibana planned to wait for that day. Then she asked to taste the tincture itself. Hiro was exactly right. He told her she didn't have to drink it if she didn't like it, since he'd adjusted the tincture to his taste. Hibana alone was determined to try it. Tasting it, she found a rich, concentrated melon flavor. Making the tincture required crushing the melon and letting it ferment for a while. It wasn't just sweet. It was the first time in her life she had tried sweet alcohol, and she could drink a lot of it. Making sweet alcohol is difficult because fermenting sugar into alcohol removes the sweetness. If the melon has a high sugar concentration, halting yeast fermentation early can preserve sweetness. It turned out he had made not just a simple sweet, but a complex sweet tincture, and she could not wait to drink her fill of the sweet alcohol. She asked if she could have another mug. He told her she could drink if she wanted, saying it at the time without putting much weight on his words. She kept drinking. They clink their mugs against the glasses each time. As a result, they drink a lot of alcohol. Hiro never imagined it would cause a major disaster. Hibana plopped down on Hiro, looked into his eyes, and told him they were beautiful. He never expected to finish a whole mug. His skin felt very warm to her. The liquor is sweet and easy to drink and much stronger than ale because so much of the sugar has been turned into alcohol, which you hadn't noticed before. Whatever she drank was still too much, so he asked her to go sleep it off. Ibane? I paused for a moment and looked at him. She touched his lips with her fingertips. She had been wanting to ask for a long time. Why won't he touch her? She told him she loved him and opened up completely. Hiro asked if she meant the time she changed clothes in front of him, and he thought she didn't see him as the opposite sex. In reality, that was not the case, and she felt ashamed as well. He then asked her to say it directly. She still couldn't force herself to invite him. She asked Hiro whether he liked her at all. He said he likes her a lot because she is his close friend. She asked if she was just a friend, and he said he felt nothing more. After sitting for a while, he admitted there was some of that. Beautiful and charming, she sometimes makes him hold himself back with all his strength, and he wouldn't usually say that, but he's drunk now. Hibana leaned in and asked if he was okay with it. She wants him to possess her completely. Hiro swallowed hard and said he wanted that too. It was impossible, and she knows it. He vowed to change the country and find the strength to win back his first love. Hibana asked whether he truly loved Princess Miri more than he loved her. Honestly, Hiro did not know that. That was how much he liked her. Hibana felt very embarrassed by his words. She asked why not, since she had already said she did not want to be a queen and could simply be a convenient figure for him. He remembered it, but considered it his own problem and felt his feelings for her had grown stronger than those for his sister. Afraid that falling in love with someone else would erase his sister's memory, he realized he had been talking a lot lately and that he should not speak like that. He had already completely stopped trying, so he did nothing to help her in any way. Hibana watched him and listened closely. When the ground slips out from under his feet, he loses faith in himself, and it seems he has already betrayed the faith those people placed in him. They should run away together for a while and finally sort out their feelings. He admitted he was a complete weakling. It was utterly disgusting to him. Hibana may already have been disillusioned with him when he looked at her. Suddenly he saw her climbing toward him with her arms not extended. Hugging him, she said everything was exactly the opposite. He let her see weaknesses he hadn't mentioned before. That wasn't fair. The hero apologized to her, and now he felt calm because she did not hate him. He then called himself a complete egoist. Because of her, he understood what he had to do and vowed to rebuild the country and bring Princess Emily back. After all that, Hibana asked him to give her a chance. He agreed without objection. With her by his side, he felt he could overcome any obstacle, then asked them to forget everything that happened today. She was too drunk to do anything about it. Everything he'd heard earlier was just drunken delirium. This proved it when she began to switch off. She then sank into his lap and fell asleep. Hiro will never be able to forget this. You can't forget what your girlfriend told you. Heading toward the castle, she walked through the tunnel with Hibana on her back. Hiro will always remember this day, but he must pretend he has forgotten. He promised her he would bring his sister when he returned. He will seriously consider their relationship. It has been 2 months since Abana's victory. As winter approaches, things are moving faster. Efforts to boost the nation's wealth and strengthen the military are gaining momentum. Hiro visited the man and asked how he was feeling. The man was his father, lying in bed with an IV drip. Sitting in the chair, he kept talking about how he would make another version of the new drug. While the father sleeps, the entire country is changing. Not long ago, they dug a tunnel leading to the sea. The brothers and Habana stood in the tunnel, watching the light coming from inside. Seeing this splendor leaves them breathless. Even in the devil's forest, you can use a magic lamp. They put a lot of effort into this. They did something unusual. After finishing all their work, they went to the hero and asked if there really was a sea behind the cave, even though it was actually a tunnel. Here the reply said it was all true. The sea would be at the end, and unlike the lake, it had many more fish. When the expedition returned from the sea, there was a big commotion because they brought back many fish and shellfish. They still needed more, so he grabbed a cart. Agatha asked where the horses pulling the cart were. The hero pointed at Takuma and Hibana and said they had someone faster and stronger than horses. Immediately they sprinted forward at full speed. This proved to be excellent training for Hibana. Takumu agreed with her and ran as quickly as he could. Sometimes Agatha finds it amazing. The hero doubts they can stop them. They remain magnificent and continue to pull the cart away from the castle. The cart does not shake, the wheels make no sound, and there is no loss of power. The road in the tunnel is perfect, especially with tire covers on, Hiro explained, saying they are wheel covers that improve driving efficiency. He estimated that the cart, their combined strength, and the road allowed them to travel at about 50 kilometers per hour. Agatha agreed that such carriages would be useful. Hiro made another one for Takumu and is sure he will come up with something for him. Agatha will really appreciate this. During the run, Hibana and Takumu competed and agreed to duel. Committed to winning, she would not lose face. He honored steadfastness. They did a very good job. Hiro believes Takumu will still be stronger. They have already announced they will arrive soon. Finally, they emerged from the tunnel. Ahead of them, the sea stretched out. Seeing him delighted people. Eros suggested they go fishing. They planned to catch a lot of fish, some for themselves and some for their wives. Everyone sat down to prepare for fishing. Everyone was delighted. The tunnel had linked the country's main region to the sea, and it was time to take the next step. The sea is not the final destination, but only the beginning. Many great goals still lie ahead. He remembered he needed to tell about wheat. All the people also worked in the field. Finally, wheat appeared in Cartarosa. Now is the time to reap the harvest. She asked how he had brought together so many people. They had already gathered all the potatoes, and this time they had the long-awaited wheat, he replied. Hibana asked what the device was, and he said it was a human-powered combine. The wheelbarrow with the blade sticking out the end is powered by people and helps them harvest, so at this rate they will set new harvest records. Glad they have wheat now, he also fitted a threshing machine to the water wheel. He probably went too far and Agatha doesn't like it. He scolded the hero for making things up too often and warned that another country might notice. Hiro apologized, but Takumu just laughed because their large harvest was all thanks to him. This can only mean one thing. This year everyone will have enough to eat. Innovative fertilizer methods have increased potato yields. Because they caught so much fish, they eat fewer potatoes, and with the salt they can pickle their food. They now grow much more wheat. Fortunately, things turned out well for them. Cutting food costs is no longer a concern. When they give out food to the people, a lot is left over, and they use it for 2 purposes. The first is supplies for wartime. An attack by neighboring countries is expected in the spring, so more food supplies are needed. Buying salt from their neighbors shows they will soon realize that their country's situation has improved, and it is only a matter of time. Gathering troops and supplies takes time. To invade Cartarosa, you must cross the mountains, and in winter, heavy snow makes it impossible to even approach them. It is clear they will likely start the invasion in spring. They must be strong enough by spring to defeat their neighbors. They have already begun the necessary preparations, including stocking up on food. You need to raise an army and they will carry magic swords, but that alone won't be enough. He wanted Takuma to train through the winter so Takuma could prepare for war, and Takuma would do it, and when the war began they would smash everyone to smithereens. They will return the lands and people they took from them. Hiro agreed with Takuma. The lands taken from them were unusually fertile and home to over 2,000 people. He wants to help his people who are suffering. Takumu could start working right now because with the magic sword in hand, they could not lose. Agatha asked them to slow down a little. He feared they might invade from the other side. Their neighbors are warlike and hostile, but they still maintain some ties with them, and if they attack from here, other countries will request reinforcements. If they attack and win, they can immediately establish relations with their neighbors, because some countries will abandon their neighbors for a good reason. Hiro believes there are many reasons for that betrayal, so they will not go into them. After hearing Agatha, Takulu understood everything. Agatha says they can still win the war and asks Hiro to build a weapon to defeat their neighbors. He replied that if they had until spring, they would have enough time. They can do it only if they get the iron. He has the plans, but they will need a lot of metal. They cannot just gather iron sand or import iron from other countries. Takumu asked if he'd make it in time and was told not to worry. At sea, an interesting idea came to him. Agatha expected a lot from him. They decided to discuss another use for food. His brother gave him permission to organize a harvest festival. The harvest festival would bring a bountiful harvest and a chance to rest for their beloved people, so he proposed it, though he was unsure it was worth spending their reserves to revive a festival canceled 12 years earlier. Now they can do it. They work hard to build a prosperous country, and someday they will bring their sister home. His father will be very surprised when he wakes up. Later, the hero decided to leave. Today, he will be busy with royal duties. The harvest festival was in full swing, buzzing with activity. People ate, talked, danced, and played. A carriage rolled out from the castle. Inside, Hiro and Hibana sat and watched people enjoying themselves. Today's speech will make this holiday even more exciting. I'll begin climbing the stand here. Soldiers noticed him first. The crowd cheered and thanked the prince for saving the country. Someone suddenly called him the Prince of Salt. This was the best gift the prince had given them, and Hiro still did not understand why they called him the Prince of Salt. They love him for returning their salt. Takumu said he was proud of it because he brought smiles to people's faces. People's love is the best medicine for the country. Nayuki also offered congratulations to the Prince of Salt. Hiro had no idea what kind of Prince of Salt he was. Suddenly, the crowd began calling him the Prince of Wheat. One more new nickname. Takumu laughed at being given such a worthy nickname. Agatha wondered which nickname was better since both Sultan and Wheat were enough accomplishments for a hero. Nayuki proposed calling him the Prince of Salt and Wheat. Both agreed at once. Hiro asked them not to play with names. They look after the salt while Agatha cares for the wheat. He wondered why all the glory went to him. He simply smiled. He trusted their brother's desire to save the country, and he was right to tell them everything. Takumu asked him to continue. Nodding, he turned to the crowd and cleared his throat. Addressing the crowd, he introduced himself as the third prince and hero Kararosa. Everyone knew him and saw him grow up. Hiro inhaled deeply. He declared that from that day on he was the king of Kararosa. Family and friends quietly supported him. Sharing their dreams, he works to make them real and wants to tell people his thoughts. First, I decided to ask whether the country has become better. The people shouted together that the country had certainly improved. They had salt, fish, and bread. Then the hero asked whether this could always be true. The people answered together again, saying yes. The hero warned it probably would not be easy. People showed thoughtful and sometimes frightened expressions. Their country has a long road ahead. The people have salt and food to last the whole winter. That is the end, and he is not happy about it. He wants better food, more entertainment, and greater comfort. Not being hungry is not enough for him. He asked whether they had drunk the ale Nayuki had prepared. It tasted good, and they felt happier. This is an unnecessary extravagance for people who only want to live. This enriches both the country and its heart. Preserving this wealth is what being happy means. He wants to enrich this country and have them do the same. He will guide them to happiness. Rather than saving the country, Hiro wants a better tomorrow. He called on his whole nation to rise up. He couldn't do it alone, so his friends followed him. This still isn't enough to use the sword. The people's power is required. The people stood in silence, trembling. Suddenly they all shouted together, "Long live King Hiro!" He was delighted by such an enthusiastic reaction. Instead of fearing death and hunger, they look ahead and believe tomorrow will be better. People bought into the future he described. They will soon live like this. They will be wealthy and content. He promised that if they followed him, he would bring prosperity to the kingdom of Cardarosa. This is the first promise he makes as king. When the speech ended, fireworks burst across the sky. The soldiers handled the fireworks well. Fireworks are simply a waste. It is a beautiful, inspiring sight. He wants everyone to see that this waste brings him happiness. He hoped everyone who saw him would understand how he felt. Someone congratulated him when he became king. That was Hibana. She said Hiro was overthinking the festival again. He may be trying to please everyone. With her by his side, he feels he can go anywhere. He wants her to follow him and stay by his side. His next goal is to fetch iron, and he will cross the sea to get it. Hibana agreed without hesitation, since she is his sword. That night they celebrated with hope, and he rejoiced so much he forgot all those years of pain. Being saved alone is not enough, and simply living is not enough either. He has only learned to live so far, and that is just the beginning. His goal lies beyond the horizon, and if he remains content with the present, he will not be able to move forward. Carterosa, a hero reborn as a prince, strives for his country's prosperity.